Hello everyone, welcome to the Game Junk podcast for May 2015. This is episode number 24, and my name is Sean.
My name is Frank.
My name is Andrew.
Coming up on this month's episode, we're going to be reviewing a couple of games. We're going to be talking about The Order 1886 as well as Ori and the Blind Forest. We've got some news, we've got some other stuff we played, but the main reason we have gathered here today is we're going to be talking Lost Orbit, the launch of Lost Orbit, and we've got Chris and Alex from Pixelnauts here. Welcome back to the show, guys.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having us.
Hey there, yeah, thanks for having us.
It
Hi,
is
guys.
our pleasure.
Hello.
And obviously, Frank, you worked on the game as well, so
Yes.
I don't know if we're interviewing you or if you're interviewing yourself. This is going to be a weird situation.
I will be an interviewee.
You're just disclosing bias right up front.
Yeah.
I like that. That's credible journalism
Traitor.
right there.
So, yeah, I guess, the idea is we're going to kind of do something similar to what we did for the Citizens of Earth launch. Talk to these guys about the development of the game, give you guys an idea of, just what it's like to live in their shoes for a bit. And
the
then
behind-the-scenes fun of game development.
yeah, and then we'll talk about some other stuff we played as well. Before we get to all that, we'll talk about some news stories. I guess we should mention, as we always do, you can follow the Game Junk Podcast on Twitter at Game Junk Podcast. We do post news occasionally there and on our Facebook page at facebook.com/GameJunk. So check that out. What about you guys? How can people follow you? And
You can check us out on Twitter. We're at Pixelnauts Games and at Pixelnauts Chris. You can also
We should say this is Chris talking right now.
Yeah, Chris talking. Hello.
Hello, Chris. And here's Alex.
Hey there, I'm Alex.
Hi, Alex. How are you? Take the mic back.
Pretty good, yeah. I'm pretty good. How you doing,
You may
Frank?
remember their voices from episode 21?
22, I think.
22?
I
21.
got to
On
check the Game
episode-
Junk wiki. I don't know. But yeah.
In
not that
episode
long
time, not very long ago. In time, long time ago.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so
And Pixelnauts Chris is Chris. Pixelnauts is Alex.
That's right.
Right? Okay. And
That's very
should we mention the other members of the team too?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dirty Frank with 3 R's in the And Sloan Kelly,
Yeah, we also have Sloan Kelly. I don't know what his thing is.
who's in Glasgow right now.
Yeah, he couldn't be here. He's
At Sloaner.
yeah,
At
maybe
Sloan
that's-
Kelly.
Oh, well, that's very hard.
Very simple, as you'd think it's spelt. And,
And Giancarlo Feltrin.
oh, yeah,
is
who
kind
did
of
the music.
Is there a music guy?
At Geo Feltrin, Feltrin.
so give those guys a follow. Just follow them up right
Just
now.
check us out on Fridays. We usually do an FF of those guys. So
Before we get into Lost Orbit, a few news stories to catch up on. Some big things happening in the game industry as of late.
Huge. Just huge.
Got to start with the return of Guitar Hero and Rock Band. It was kind of teased, I guess, was it last year when Rock Band Blitz came out? And
Well, they've been teasing it for a couple of years by putting surveys on the internet.
Right.
With if we had a game what would appeal to you using old instruments, and it was a series of 8 questions. And then before this announcement, they re-released almost an identical survey again.
I mean, when they're doing those surveys, they're not really trying to find out what people want to play in sense of like what would be included in the game. They're just trying to figure out what they can charge for DLC for. So it's like everything that people vote for will not be included in the game.
so all the questions are irrelevant except for the question of what is a fair price for DLC.
Yeah.
No.
And then double it.
No, but the songs people really ask for, if it's one of the top hits, we'll save that.
Save it for DLC. Yeah.
Right. Good point.
But I think it's mostly, do they think it's a deal breaker to not have instrument compatibility from past games?
Right.
Other features that if they're not there, it's going to be a big problem.
So let's set the stage here for a second. When was the last Rock Band, Guitar Hero, when were the last games released? Do you know this information, Frank? If you don't, I am very surprised.
I believe Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock was released in 2009, maybe?
Was that the one
No,
with Slash
2010.
in it? Or is that...
No, that's where it was kind of taking it back to the original Guitar Hero, and you were playing the original characters like Lars Umlaut and
okay, I don't think I played that one. So.
it was not that great. And it tried to do a quest
Okay.
structure. Not that hot. And Rock Band, I think the last one was Green Day Rock Band,
Right.
which
Sounds
came
about
out
right.
in the same year, 2010, which was awesome.
Sounds awesome.
We can play it later tonight if you want.
So it's been 5 years. It's kind of weird, like how like these things were huge, and then they kind of just died out. And I guess part of it was people were sick of buying new instruments. Everybody had all these plastic instruments sitting around, but I don't know. It is weird to me that 5 years later, I feel like there's a lot of excitement again. They only waited 5 years.
I still play Rock Band 3 all the time.
Yeah,
And I played Guitar Hero a couple weeks ago, too. I love it.
keeping it.
I've
actually
never
feel
wanted
like
a game so bad.
I feel like it hasn't even been that long. Like hearing 5 years, I was a little surprised because I don't know. I just feel like it's always been around. Like you're saying, like you just kind of pull it out every once in a while and you just kind of have it. So kind of surprised it's been 5 years. Seems like not that long to me.
It was kind of novel. Like I played it a lot when it came out, and we used to always go over to friends' places and like play it for a bit. But I got to a point where I was like, why do they need to make new Rock Band games? Like, isn't it just DLC? Like,
I
is
think
there
they
anything
screwed
else that
themselves
you?
with that, definitely.
Yeah, like all you really need is new songs, right? I don't really see beyond that what they can do with it that they haven't already done.
Well, I will say this. From an interface standpoint, Rock Band 3 is vastly superior, and Guitar Hero 5, I think, marked a turn in usability with joining in play, party modes, several other things that just made it a less cumbersome experience.
Couldn't that be a patch?
Patches, huh? No, it could be. That's true.
But they would add instruments with every new Rock Band, at least.
You got to do one per console, basically, right? Because nobody's going to pull out their old console to play if they don't support it anymore.
Yeah.
Especially with all the peripherals, right?
Yeah.
I gotta. Sorry, Sean. No instruments were released with Rock Band 3. Just have to stop
Really?
you right there. Yeah.
The keyboard was 2?
Oh, just the keyboard. There was no, but the keyboard wasn't
There's
previously
no
available.
drum pack or anything.
There was no new drums, guitars for Rock Band.
Yeah, they
3.
got to do some new stuff.
But I just mean that.
Oh, adding a new instrument.
yeah, like that.
Yeah, I
was
want a
the new
ukulele
gameplay.
or like a guitar or like a
guitar. Did they ever make that?
Whatever.
Well, you can. There's a strap for
Oh,
the.
yeah.
Gregorian throat singing. That's what I'm waiting for.
Well, but then we're also forgetting DJ Hero
Oh yeah.
came out, and there was that other DJ game, Scratch.
Never
or
came
whatever.
out.
Scratch DJ,
That never
which
came
never
out?
came out, unfortunately.
Developed by Bedlam Games.
Yeah, so that was kind of like they spun off into that direction, and then I guess dancing games have been still keeping the music genre alive. But so the question is, what can they do now that will be new? And Guitar Hero Live, they've announced, and they've shown a teaser trailer, which is the idea is it's a first-person perspective.
It's full motion video. It's Sega CD.
kind of.
We've come
does feel
full
like that.
circle.
FMV is back, baby.
The circle is complete.
So that's I guess the main thing they're selling the game on is that you're on stage and you're kind of looking around, and like if you start playing poorly, then your bandmates start yelling at you and the crowd.
It looks so
Booze.
bad. That aspect looks terrible. It really does. I've seen other clips where it's basically what SingStar does in a lot of cases, playing over the music video, which I think could happen too. But they leaked, or not leaked, they announced 10 tracks for the game,
Okay.
and I do not know any. I've never even heard.
I told you. DLC quest, man.
Well, I'm sure these are popular with the youngins.
The cool kids.
I'll announce these, and you guys tell me if you're
I
excited.
don't know
for
about you
these.
guys, but when I play those games, I never look at what's going on around the little
I don't have time.
skate thing,
Yeah,
whatever you
I was
call
just
it.
gonna say. I mean, that they did try to enhance that with each new game that came out, and nobody cared. They realized, well,
It's only for the audience, really.
Yeah.
Well, I am kind of excited for the fact that they've changed the guitar. It's 3 buttons over 3, and it's a little more chord structure like, I guess.
Right.
But at least it's different. So that
So
could
you
be.
have to buy a new guitar.
Well, I'm going to buy a new guitar. I'm going to buy 2 new guitars and 2 new drums. So
I think
at least make it worth my while. At least make it different.
I think with the video backgrounds, if they can make the production cheaper, if they could actually lower the cost of the DLC, I think people will probably be a bit more excited. Because the DLC was crazy expensive for not owning the actual song. Like, you can't use it.
And I can't believe they never had a subscription service either. with like unlimited
That's
access.
a great
to music.
idea, actually. Yeah, I found that with a lot of music games though too. Like I got into Rocksmith. I bought Rocksmith, and like the cost per song is insane, but like from a gamer's point of view, and the way I was able to justify it was just like the cost of music lessons was just like way more. Anytime I go there and try and learn fundamentals, all they do is just, okay, what song do you want to learn? That's all I want to teach you. Yeah, and so they just teach you a song. So I'm like, I can just look up tabs on the internet, or better yet, get Rocksmith, and then it's like $4 a song or something like that, and you can just play whatever you want, right?
That's true. Rocksmith has also kind of still been going along and doing pretty well, I think. Like they made one last year, right? Like it's still going. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, and like I know Rock Band 3 kind of hit that point where they were trying you could buy a real guitar. And
it's right behind you.
And it was, and maybe that's why they thought, well, we can't do any more, is because they kind of hit the point where, okay, we're actually teaching you real guitar now. We're done. But so the interesting thing is, has Rock Band announced anything in terms of what they're doing different?
No.
So they've just said, trust us, we wouldn't have made another game.
My prediction would be it is a next-gen experience in the ways that I think it will be a subscription model, or that will be an option.
Okay.
You've heard it here first. And I'm thinking that's really it. I think it's going to keep it very simple, keep the old game structure. Other than taking out keyboards, I don't think you're going to see a huge change other than updated interfaces and better graphical presentation for the bands. I think that's...
What about
it's not
this?
going to be a grand departure.
What about this? Hear me out.
Light kit comes back. A stage kit. That's what I want.
Okay, I'm down with that too. Here's my idea. Combine the dancing games with the Kinect and the PlayStation camera.
That was totally I was going to say that. That's
And so, and not necessarily in the sense that somebody's dancing while somebody's playing. Like, have the idea of, you have to pull off certain moves, like, play with the guitar above your head or something stupid like that.
Okay, that's way cooler. My idea was to incorporate like Fly Girls into the presentation.
Well, I'd be down for that too, but
I have a way better idea.
Oh, nice.
So it's Rock Band or Guitar Hero, but you put the Oculus Rift on, and it's waves of monsters attacking you from different areas, and you got to play the like chords at the monsters that are like the right colors. And then
that feels like a typing game I play.
Yeah, it's a typing tutor. Yeah.
Well, Rocksmith has games like that for muscle memory for certain frets and stuff like that with shooting ducks on.
Yeah, I hate them.
Yeah, I've never tried it.
I tried it for like 10 seconds. I'm like, fuck this game.
I think I heard an interview with the creative guy for Rock Band, and I think, if I remember correctly, I think it was with Giant Bomb, saying that the back catalog is... you'll be able to recover it somehow.
Yes.
Which will be pretty good for all those people like you, Frank, who have bought every Rock Band going forward. Now you have a huge library for Rock Band 4.
And that's why I think it's not going to be a huge departure.
That's a big incentive, though, right? If you can buy it on the next gen and have your previous library, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just announce the 10 songs that have been announced. Sing by Ed Sheeran.
Who?
Sean, you big Ed Sheeran fan? No? He's huge right now. Huge.
Never heard of him.
Best Day of My Life, American Authors. That I think from America's Got Talent and other reality shows that...
Don't know it.
Play it.
I also don't know.
You don't know it?
Sing a little bit.
It's going to be the best day of my life.
Okay.
Oh. No?
Yes.
That's a rock song?
That's where this is going,
Pop.
guys. That's where this is going. What doesn't...
This is Guitar
Pop
Hero, I
band.
think, right? This is Guitar Hero.
It's Guitar Hero.
Well, and that's interesting because Guitar Hero used to be all about rock.
Guitar?
And rock. It was, right?
They've run out of rock.
And
Yeah, we're on to Synth Hero now.
okay.
Well, that's an
Dub Hero.
What doesn't kill you? Jake Bug.
Nope.
No, me neither. You don't owe you a thing. Gary Clark Jr.
Are rock bands allowed to use thang in their
I think it's a
song
country.
titles?
I hope it's a country song. Asleep at the Wheel, Band of Skulls.
Nope.
That sounds like a 70s song. There's a lot of 70s songs about crashing your car. So
That's not a 70s song.
all right.
If that band is from the 70s, I'd have heard of them. Little Talks of Monsters and Men.
Yep, I know that band.
Okay.
Cry.
Not very rocky.
This is a good.
No, not Rocky at all. That's what I was saying. Like, I know the song. I'm like, that is not something I would include in Rock Band.
Cry of Achilles, Alter Bridge, which are the previous members of Creed.
They've gotten a lot harder in their old age, though. Isn't that what happens?
I guess. Sounds like Balloons, Biffy Clyro, Sometimes by the Blitz Kids, and Under the Pressure, The War on Drugs.
One song.
I'm not very excited about these 10 songs.
So this is the Guitar Hero game?
Yeah.
So what? So obviously we are not the target demographic for this.
Clearly.
Game.
I think we used to be, essentially.
Yeah.
So they've decided to take a step back and probably aim closer to the teenage range.
So, I mean, that's the reason why they don't have to change anything then, right? Because these young people didn't exist.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Market.
But they did change, though. This is Guitar Hero.
I see, okay.
I also heard
so
that
they've revamped everything.
The music video portion, in quotes, is actually like a band or like actors they hired to, I think you like pick a band or a style of music you like, and then you have a band that kind of fits that style or something like that, right? So maybe like all the songs they've announced are from like the pop,
could be
like band choice or something like that, and maybe there's still other choices left to announce.
Could be
Pirate metal. That's the one I'd do.
Didn't they do a pop oriented
Band Hero.
Yeah, that's the one.
We could play that later. You know,
Let's do it. Put it up.
Live stream.
Yeah, it was okay. It was definitely aimed a bit more towards kids, a la Lego Rock Band as well.
Rock Band, yeah, right.
The other thing I was going to say, the thing that sounds interesting about Guitar Hero Live is they talked about Guitar Hero TV, which comes with it, which, as I understand it, is songs would get released daily and different features that you could...
Like they have like challenge songs or something.
Yeah,
like
it was
that?
like going through channels and just interacting with stuff. I don't know, but it sounds semi-intriguing.
I haven't heard anything about that. That's an interesting twist.
Trying to cash in on the YouTube like learn to play.
This game is marketed for the YouTube generation,
clearly.
So
I think it'd be sweet if they did have
theme
like a
from
challenge that was out for maybe like a week or something like that. Everybody could get it, like put in their scores or whatever, and I don't know, there was some sort of like prize system or award system for the people who do the best job.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
I think they'll probably do like an iPhone-ish type of thing, almost freemium, where they'll make you want to play every day, send stuff to your friends. They'll probably do some crap like that. If they're gearing towards the younger generation that are used to doing that kind of, like, you know, draw something or whatever, trivia crack. Yeah, that kind of stuff. They'll probably do that. Like, oh, you got to come in every day to play this special song and challenge your friends, and then send them a life or a challenge. And then that'll work well with the subscription model, too, if that's what they're going to do. Subscription plus, like, pay as you go, plus DLC, plus a base coverage.
Yeah, beautiful. What about PlayStation Plus? How is that going to figure into that?
how so?
Well, it's already a subscription. Like, can they just say, hey, you know, if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, we're going to give you new Rock Band DLC every...
If you pay for PlayStation Plus, you get the actual rock songs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, isn't that the same thing as Xbox Live? Why are you singling out PlayStation Plus?
Or, yeah, games.
Okay, just
games with gold
equal
or
representation here in the game.
I just never know what the Microsoft one's called. It's just confusing.
You don't know what Xbox Live is called?
It's not called Xbox Live anymore.
It essentially is.
Okay.
It is, right? I
Yeah.
think it's still that. Games with Gold is their
Just a program.
PS Plus thing. Like their PS Plus giveaway stuff. That was just their branding. Because this PS Plus, what's the daily or monthly game thing? They didn't name it differently, right?
No. It's just your free games of the month.
Yeah, Sony just didn't brand it fancily.
Yeah, it's games with gold on Xbox.
Yeah, it's a sexy
Beautiful.
Sure. Okay, so a couple other things to talk about. Lots of big games getting delayed. Surprise, surprise.
Stop nodding, Frank.
Uncharted 4.
Quantum Break
Quantum Break.
Oh yeah, that was a game.
still is a game. Come on.
I thought there was another one before Zelda. but
There was another big game.
recently announced.
Dead Island 2.
That's right. I did hear
Yeah.
that.
That was recently. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it seems like this is a more and more common thing. People announce games, and you think, excellent, I'll be able to play that later this year, and then you won't.
Well, I believe, was it the last episode we did the top anticipated of 2015. I believe we made a crack that none of them would be actually in 2015, and I believe that has now proven true.
It's pretty close to happening, yeah.
It's a problem with game developers. They're just not considerate of your schedule.
That's right. Gosh.
Yeah, so selfish.
Dare you delay.
So I guess the main one to talk about, though, would be Zelda, which, there was some debate over, like, when they initially unveiled it, whether it was running on the actual hardware.
So Alex and I have been debating fervently since last E3.
It's only Frank debating. Everybody else knows it's true.
Where I said, there's no way that's running on a Wii U. This game is never happening. It's just bullshit.
Totally Wii U.
Right.
And I really believe it's almost a definite now that this game will be on the next Nintendo console. And Nintendo just pulled the wool over everyone's eyes.
You're probably right. The next console is probably like the new 3DS, where it's just a Wii U 2 or some garbage. There'll probably be something like that, where it's just like upgraded a bit graphically or something, like you're saying.
But backwards compatible.
Except for like a couple games where they're only available on the brand new console. But it could just be a brand new console too.
Although I'm sure it was running on a Wii U, but I'm just not convinced it was as fleshed out as maybe they portrayed it to be. I recall doing some publisher pitches where there were sections of the world that you didn't want the publisher to see because they were just black holes of nothingness.
For sure. I doubt
we
it
were
was close
advertising
to
it as a open world, yet there was nothing there. So they could have done something like that. This 45-degree angle of the world looks excellent.
Yeah,
just don't turn around.
Yeah.
That's sure. And I think, if anything, what you saw at the initial part of the interview, which was Link standing on or sitting on a horse in a field, that part may have been on a Wii U, but the rest of it wasn't.
That idle
totally
horse animation.
I've gone through their wording very carefully, and yeah, I think.
Well, has anyone played a demo of this, or has it all just been that Nintendo Direct video?
It's all just direct, I
No
think.
one's
Yeah.
played anything on it.
no one's touched it.
But Frank, what's your theory about the next?
Well, I think it's interesting that I think the new Nintendo console will come out in the next year, 2 years at the most. Mm-hmm. Now, we saw Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 life cycles was about 8 years, 9 years or so.
Yep.
Something like that, yeah.
So everyone was laughing at Nintendo that their console technology was behind the times, but they're going to update mid-cycle this time, and they'll catch up effectively with Xbox and PlayStation 4. And by the time the next round comes out, probably 4 years after that, they'll probably release another one and be back to square one again too, technology-wise, or pretty close, I'd say. So Nintendo's probably laughing because
all they're doing is strapping two Wii U's together.
Because they know they have their hardcore fans that are going to buy it for the games no matter what the technology level is, and so they get a double console cycle essentially.
That's totally true. And in terms of, I'm more of a PC guy, but in terms of PCs, like, that's the kind of model that I tend to follow, is instead of just like buying a $5,000 PC and hoping it's going to last me for the next 5 years, I'll buy something for like $1,500 and then buy another one in a couple of years, right? Which I think works great for PCs, but I think the issue with consoles is often the peripherals, by the time you buy all the peripherals you want, it's almost more expensive than the console. And so it's like, I think it's a lot to ask somebody to constantly just be buying a new console and like outfitting themselves with all those new peripherals. But you're totally right. Like,
but it's Nintendo.
People love Nintendo, and as long as they do something a little bit new with the content, like people are all over it.
Or have a new Zelda game or Mario game or Metroid game.
But what you're saying though, do you think that it's actually like what Alex was saying? Like, do you think it's actually a Wii U 2? Like, it'll still play Wii U games, or is this a totally new system? Because I have a hard time believing they're just starting to get people on board.
Yeah,
with
just
the
the
Wii U.
momentum's just building now.
So
I think it'll be backwards compatible, and I think they clear. See, it's tough to say. I don't think it'll be a Wii U 2 because there was already tons of confusion as to what the Wii U was.
Right.
With people who had a Wii.
It'll be the Wii 2.
So I think it will still be backwards compatible and have. They've been good about using Wiimotes and other stuff on the Wii U, but on the next one, it'll be a rebranding in the next, I'll say 2 years at the most. if we come back 2 years from now, we can play a new Nintendo console. Mark my words. And we can also use Wiimotes and Wii U gamepads on that console.
I think that's the one nice thing Nintendo does that no other console has really done is I bought a Wii U. I didn't have to buy anything. Like I think I bought a Pro controller just because I liked it and it looked nice. Yeah, I like the big one too. But like all the nunchucks, the classic controllers, all that stuff just worked with it, right? And I think that's awesome. I mean, I think the PS4 should have done that. Like if you just want to use the DualShock 3 or whatever the hell it is, like they should have made that happen.
I think Sony did that from PS2 to PS3, right? Couldn't you still use the PS2? No.
Oh no, yeah, I couldn't remember.
I think you guys are way off. I think it's going to be a mobile phone to play the Nintendo mobile products.
No, that'd be the worst.
Branded Nintendo.
Could happen. I'm not.
Well, when we live stream
discounting
tonight,
it.
we're going to play a game where we use our phones to
Nice.
play it. And it's a pretty fun experience, but it's got to be the right game.
I think Frank is right with the consoles, like where they'll probably put it out in a couple years. I think what they did with the Wii U's, they put it at the end of the last cycle, so it just looked nicer right off the bat before the next gens came out. And they'll probably do that again once the PS3 and PS4 are like halfway through the cycle. They're like, oh, now we have the best looking console and it's $200. They'll probably do something like that.
Well, can you look up what's the difference between Wii and Wii U as far as time?
Oh, like
And then
years?
GameCube before that. Like, I wonder if they're on like a set cycle, like every 5 years we just put out
it's
new
pretty
hardware
close.
kind of thing, and they don't care what Sony and Microsoft are doing, which wouldn't surprise me because Nintendo never really cares what they do, obviously, because the power of the Wii U is nowhere near the power of the other two consoles, so they obviously don't give a shit.
It seemed to me like in the past, the biggest platform for games is usually, not always, but usually the system that people just have available in their houses to begin with. And I'm wondering with like cell phones being the most prominent platform available right now,
Yeah,
how
'cause
long it's
mobile
going to
phone-
be until something
Mobile
like
phone.
that is used to stream stuff to your television. Like how far off do you think we are before we
For
don't need...
using iPhone
Before
and
you have
iPad?
Vita Remote Play?
They have that already, right?
No, but like on a console level experience.
Vita Remote Play.
Well, it just I think it could be there. I think it just requires people to actually make those games, which people aren't doing.
But what do you mean make those games though? Like dumb them down to a level where they can run on a phone?
Well, Unreal runs on a phone. So in theory,
I just
make
think
a
Unreal
game.
does run on a phone as long as but it's like you don't have the same sort of power access access to power as you do on like a proper
believe-
console
No,
or PC.
definitely
hasn't
not.
Carmack actually
Most
said
likely.
that like a few years from now, whatever the next iPad will be like way beyond whatever the current consoles are, and like
Sure.
he was.
Sounds like something he would say. And also, I know he's all jacked up about the VR on phone revolution that's coming
Right.
up.
But I mean, I
So-
think the next generation tablets and phones will be more powerful than
you got-
our consoles, right? But the question is, will the consoles at the time be like way more powerful than that? Like, will anybody still want to use phones
there was an
as a proper console?
There was an article. I posted this on the Facebook page, and I didn't actually read through the whole thing myself. But they did like a survey of basically the state of the game industry, and I think they said their conclusion was that like 5 years from now,
Yeah, 2019, I think. I saw that when I was going through it
2019.
today.
Yeah. So 5 years from now, they were basically saying, will like Microsoft and Sony even be in the market anymore?
The console market.
Yeah, because of stuff like what you're saying. Like
Right.
it just like not. I don't know. I'm not sure what the sales numbers are at this point on PS4s and Xbox Ones, but I think they're saying that the adoption rate is not quite what they thought it would be.
If you think about it too, I mean, it's kind of crazy. Xbox and PS4 come out and they're what, $500 each, and people are up in arms like, how the hell can you expect me to pay that much for a product that will last 10 years? How many things in your life today can you think of that actually last 10 years? Like your PC, it's gonna like maybe 3 years, maybe, and then you'll be looking to upgrade, right?
Yeah.
And people buy fucking $600 iPhones every year. Like it blows my mind. And the advantage of the iPhones, the mobile phones, is that they're getting like product iterations every year, right? every year Samsung comes out with new phones, Apple comes out with new phones. They're able to like drastically improve stuff like based on user feedback, and the consoles don't have that. So I wonder in like that regard, as far as the technology ramp up, like you're saying, Chris, like I have a feeling like mobiles will just like ramp up way faster than the consoles ever could, and eventually they'll pass the consoles.
Well, I think like tech-wise, like you guys are right. Like, I mean, like BioShock 1 came out on an iPhone. It looks terrible, but I mean, it's out, right? Which we're getting there. I think the biggest problem they're going to have trying to convert that over to a console is people's perceptions. People are still, even if they buy a tablet that's amazing and powerful, they're like, oh yeah, games should only be $2. Right? Trying to sell someone an $80 game or a $120 Call of Duty 3, Black Ops 3 on there is going to be hard, even though it's like, yeah, connect a controller, connect all that.
The control issues are tough too.
But
like,
it's just, I think just people's mentality, right? When you buy a console, you have an expectation of what games will cost, what types of games you're going to have on there. And even if you throw those games on an iPhone, like BioShock wasn't $60 or $40 on an iPhone. It was cheap, right? It was.
I think that's sort of starting to change though on consoles due to Steam sales. Mainly, like people felt ripped off from the order being $60 or whatever because it was only
in Canada. How much are games now? Aren't they like
70,
75?
Yeah.
Now?
In the last Black Ops and Battlefront, I think are $80 to pre-order.
Yeah, and that's
Really?
that's nuts.
Yeah,
Do they give
they're
you bonus
120 if you get the premium edition or something like that. It's
with the
season
amiibo
pass.
sized Darth
No,
Vader.
just digital exclusives.
It's just digital, but it's you
What?
get the season pass. It's $120.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough, right? Like I play a lot of mobile games, but like right now I can't play anything more than like a puzzle game on a mobile.
I was talking to a guy actually just a couple days ago, and he's in the mobile development area, and he was telling me that on console, the like average attention span of your user is like 2 hours, and I think it was on a handheld device like whatever Vita and 3DS, it's like half an hour, and on a phone it's 30 seconds. So like if you don't have like a really addictive game loop or even like something that you can get your point across in 30 seconds, like there's no point in even really diving into that market.
That's something I always felt like
Shitter time, basically.
trying to get into mobile games. Like I try to keep an open mind about it and like download a lot of them and like try them out and stuff like that. But I never feel like, even if it's the best possible scenario, I never feel like I'm immersed in the game like I do when I'm on a console.
It's hard to
or
get
on the
immersion
PC.
on a phone.
It's just not. I don't know. Something with the touch, it just doesn't feel like I'm really there.
Let's be.
Well, we're talking about 30-second game loops. It reminded me, I have my shield is expiring in Clash of Clans in the next 2 hours, and I just got to be on top of that.
Gotta save Kate Upton.
Well, that's
Game of War?
which
Oh,
is
my mistake.
The most it's embarrassing. The most generic title, Game of War.
Game with boobs.
Every time I see that commercial,
I worked on a game called Modern Combat, so just to be
Put it in
fair.
perspective.
But you didn't have advertisements on TV every 10 minutes with
That's true.
ginormous boobies.
A boob jiggling combat soldier.
But I mean, I think all these points are totally valid. I think the thing that could happen, and it's starting to happen a little bit, like you're talking about BioShock. I know that there's a lot of Final Fantasy games coming out for mobile, and they're charging a bit more. All you need to do is for somebody to have the balls to step up and say, Uncharted 5, iPhone only, or something like that. Like, obviously that would never happen because it's a Sony game, but a big AAA game, if they said, we're going to bring it to mobile, and, maybe they did something like the AirPlay stuff where you're actually playing it on your TV.
Yeah, I think for that to happen, like, just to be clear, when I was talking about this earlier, the experience that I would imagine it going to is a controller and using your television.
Right.
I don't think that AAA stuff is going to be replaced by touch. But yeah, like something like that, like, yeah, eventually, why not? If the power's there and the ability to stream is as fluid and lag free as it needs to be, then like, why not, right?
I think you guys are right though with that, like projecting it onto a TV, because I know when we released Citizens on Vita, we had a lot of people contacting us asking for PS TV support that we never even thought like would really be a big issue. So we patched that in, but we didn't even really consider it. We were like, well, this will take too much to QA and not really worried about it. And then we had so many people asking us that we're like, well, we better put it in. And then it...
It's because how much did they mark it down to? Wasn't it super cheap, PlayStation TV?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. Apparently a lot of people buy Vitas and that thing and
That's weird.
play on their TVs.
But that's probably what's going to happen. It's going to be Apple doing their Apple TV, being like, hey, you can have a controller, you could buy our games on the App Store and just play them on your Apple TV.
Yeah.
I think Sean's right. The moment I think it will change is when Call of Duty or any of those big guys will be like, you know what, we're not making a mobile version anymore. Just, Modern Warfare 12 is just on the App Store. If you want to buy it, it's only for the Apple TV. We're not making a mobile version.
You'd think EA would be the prime candidate for that, but they had they bought up a ton of mobile companies and they haven't really done anything like that with it. So I wonder if their analytics team or whatever has not it hasn't really shown that it'll be worthwhile for them. So I wonder if that's why they haven't brought over like a Need for Speed game onto phones or any other big titles that they have. Like they have lots.
They had
of
a Need for
properties.
Speed game on BlackBerry
Did they?
tablet. Yeah. That was one of the big selling points of the BlackBerry tablet. I remember that. My cousin had one, and she's like, "This game's amazing," and tilting her BlackBerry and crashing into medians and stuff. Yeah, yeah. No, I think I was just gonna say I think the estimate of Modern Warfare 12 is perfect. Yeah. That's when it's gonna happen.
See, I'm kind of on a totally different side. I think you're seeing a bit of crossover now, and I just think it's going to separate.
Yeah.
The mobile space is going to be Clash of Clans, small stuff like that, and people might spend $1 on that game, and there's people who spend thousands and thousands of dollars on that game. And you've seen freemium models try to get into games too, and it doesn't really seem to take. And I think you're just going to see that continue. They're going to have their own little circles carved out.
I think they're starting to make their
Okay,
way
hang on though. Sorry. I was going to say, so what it comes down to for me is when you're looking at what Andrew was saying about people don't want to spend $500 on a console. The way that a subscription plan works with a phone, people are more than comfortable spending $800 on a phone as long as it's over time, right? So my question to you would be, if somebody came out, like let's pretend you don't know anything about the technology that's inside your phone.
Yeah.
If somebody came out with I don't know. What game are you super excited about? Let's say a next generation console came out, and the game that was coming out on that you were super excited about was also coming out on your phone, and you can play on a controller on your television. A Jar Jar Binks,
Meets Pee-wee
first person RPG. Would you buy the console? Would you buy the console, or would you play it on your phone?
I'm talking some shit, but let's say what I've always said happened, where Nintendo and Apple merged, and they said, or Nintendo Mobile, Nintendo games are released on phones only.
Yeah.
But that's not the question, though. The question is, if Nintendo still exists and they release their stuff on phones, you have a phone that's capable of playing a Nintendo game, or you can buy the new console and play it. And the experience is the same.
Wrong guy. I'm buying the console. You have to. You pretty much
collector
have to tell,
never stops collecting. That's a bad question.
No, you have to tell me the only way I can play this game is if it's only on iPhone.
Exclusively.
Only on.
Okay, so Frank's the
Nintendo
wrong guy to ask.
mobile
Who's the
device.
cheap guy in the room? Who's the frugal?
Huck City.
Okay,
They don't give out phones at the library either.
Same question to you. If you could play it on the the computer you already have.
You're asking the wrong guy because I only got a cell phone like 2 years ago, so I'm super
Shit.
cheap.
I yield the floor.
So it's kind of interesting what you bring up, Frank, because I know a lot of people when the 3DS came out were like, this is going to flop. Why are they bothering? Mobile is dead on the, just like a handheld that plays games. And 3DS is kicking ass. And I think a lot of the games that people thought were going to go to mobile have disappeared and have been replaced by the freemium garbage, right?
Yeah.
So you're probably right. It seems like it's actually the other way, where instead of the big games trying to get on that market, they're getting pushed out by
all my
crap that
friends,
people wanna
all my
play.
friends who don't play consoles play Clash of Clans, and I mean they're different markets. I'm not saying it's impossible that the scenario you guys are putting forward.
Yeah, basically what you're saying is that. Sorry.
Yeah, I could see that happening someday, like with technology and
Modern Warfare 12.
well, it could be, but it also might just come down to the point where consoles don't exist. That's what I see more likely happening. That these are the only thing that exists.
Dennis was
Right.
right.
Well,
the one console future.
Yeah, like games are most affordably played on whatever computer is readily available, right?
And maybe in the future, all the computers are your phone.
Yeah,
Well, they are. 'Cause
It's possible.
Isn't the PC market dying aside from hardcore gamers?
Well, no, if technology
no,
gets
aside from
exponential,
developers
yeah, that's
who
it.
happen to be hardcore gamers usually.
it would just be essentially a core processor, maybe that you carry around and stream to different display
Yeah,
devices.
I mean, if you can just you can use it in the same way that you could use a PC, right? Like same thing. I have my phone, I dock it, or even just like sit it down on my desk, and I'm using a keyboard and using monitors. I'm fine with that if the processing power is there, right? But it's more for me in terms of like playing games, the interface on the phone, the processing power. It's just like the immersion's not there. Even when I am using it, like most of the times, my fingers are covering up most of the action. It's like,
Oh, yeah, it's
for quiz games, puzzle games, and stuff. It's great, and I think touchscreens are awesome, and they're a good supplement to other control schemes. But it's just like it's not there in terms of like having your own controller, playing on a big screen, streaming some of the better games. So
I have a
that's
question.
What holds me back?
Actually, about controllers with iPhones and stuff. Like, why has nobody... I think Steve Jobs, for the longest time, was the guy who was saying, we're not going to sell peripherals.
Yeah,
You have to use the touchscreen because we want to convince everybody the touchscreen is enough. But he's gone. These things have been out for long enough. Why has nobody come out with... Or maybe there are some, but like, is there like a kick-ass controller that everybody uses for the iPhone?
There is actually a cool one. So when we were at PSX last year, this dude beside us, he was working on Gunship X or whatever. So he had this controller, and it was okay. It was kind of like just a big Xbox kind of controller. It had a little dock. You put your phone in. It connects to it, I think, via Bluetooth. Yeah. And he was, I forgot what game he let us play. I don't know if it was his or he had like GTA on it. It was awesome. And it was really cool. It totally played. And what he said, because he was a mobile developer first, he was porting his game over to the PS4, which is kind of weird. But he said that Apple was actually pushing people to try and use this thing, and controllers like it. And the people that are making it, I think the one he had was made by Mad Catz or some other company. Apple gave them mandates of what the controller had to be for them to like widely support it, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, but considering what we're learning about how unstandardized Macs and Apple's game controllers.
Yeah, it's
What?
very different.
No, like even when I've tried playing games on a Mac, no controllers work. Like for Apple being known as the plug and play,
Yeah,
like
they're terrible
it'll
on the
just
computer.
work on Mac. That is not the case for games and for controllers on Mac. It is almost
It works
impossible.
if it's an Apple product on a Mac.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not true. Like this board that we use to record these podcasts,
Yes.
it is a pain in the fucking ass to get to work on your PC. It took me 5 days to get it to work on my PC.
Didn't take me that long. But
That's a long time, man.
depends on your PC, I guess. But
Well, the instructions Sean gave me certainly didn't work,
I don't
or the
remember what I told you.
instructions given. But I plugged it into this beautiful MacBook Pro, worked instantaneously. I'm just saying they support the weirdest array of devices out of the box,
But I mean,
except for
that's-
anything to do with games.
Yeah, Mac's still not known as a gaming machine, even though it could be. I don't know why they're not.
Which is
pushing that
weird
more.
because one of the biggest gaming companies out there, Bungie, originally made all their games for Mac.
that's true. That's kind of weird.
There's history there. Just saying, think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This whole controller thing, it's weird because, like, where I work, we get mandates. Like, I feel like every month it's changing. Like, okay, make all your games support a controller. Okay, we're dropping controller support. And it's back and forth. And it's like, well, if Apple is pushing it, why don't they just make the official Apple controller? And then everyone will buy it. It doesn't make sense to me. But
Yeah, they totally should.
It'll be your watch.
Did you watch the video of the guy showing off his Apple Watch and he accidentally bought an Xbox One on Amazon?
No.
He like one touch bought it and he's like, shit, how do I undo that? It was a CNET video. It was amazing.
Clickbait.
CNET, I'll be expecting my check in the mail. Thank you.
All right, so I guess we should talk about one more news story, which is this whole Steam mod thing. I don't totally understand what happened, but I guess Valve announced that they were going to start monetizing mods for games. And
I think only in
essentially,
Skyrim, first off.
right, but the plan was to expand it beyond that as well,
Yeah.
I think.
I think so.
And they thought this is going to be great because you know what? We'll make a little money from it, but also all the creators, people who pour all kinds of money into modding games can make money too, which in theory sounds good. I would admit that sounds like a good plan to me. And then people flipped out online and just could not believe that they were trying to monetize this thing that has been, free and open for so long. And then like a day later or something, they said, okay.
Yeah, there was a couple days.
They said, okay, we're not doing that.
It wasn't so from my understanding, it wasn't just that they were charging for something that used to be free. It was that mods that people were selling contained features from other mods by other people that were free. So it'd be like if you made a mod, Sean, and then I took it, slapped some additional shit on it, and sold it for $10. That's what people... So I guess like the first guy that got caught doing this, I think he did it innocently, but some people were like, hey, you're using like this other dude's shit. Like you can't just use this. And the money was going just to the one guy, not to the other people that had assets in it.
Right.
So there's this whole gray area. And then I think what kind of brought it up was like people asked Valve, like, how are you going to resolve these issues? And Valve was like, I don't know, whatever. Like, we'll let the community decide, essentially. Like they basically just sloughed it off like it was no big deal. And then I think that kind of blew up. And what also came out was that like of the money earned, Valve took 30%, which is pretty typical of like a console person to take or any sort of platform holder. And then, so the rest goes to Bethesda and the mod creator. And the person who actually sets that split is the publisher or the game developer. So Bethesda. And they apparently, of that remaining 70, were giving the modder 25%, which to me seems quite which to me seems like quite a pretty big chunk to take from the modder. Like I would think maybe 50-50 would be a more reasonable amount.
I mean, I can see it both ways. It depends on how ballsy the company is, right? But if you look at a company as big as that and try and figure out how much money they spend on marketing their products, it's a hell of a lot. It's probably going to match their development budget.
But the game is 5 years old.
True. So hang on, hear me out.
They're not
so
marketing it anymore.
They wouldn't have anything to mod if that game wasn't out already.
That's right. Well, I agree.
That's true.
Or their tools weren't available.
That is true. But historically, it seems like a lot of the game companies were happy enough that somebody was creating new content for them for free.
Yeah.
That was going to sell the base product, right? So if you look at Arma, which was, they were basically going out of business until DayZ came along, and everybody bought Arma, I think it was Arma 2, in order to play DayZ. And so in terms of, and that modder worked for the developers of Arma, but typically I would say that the developer would look at it in terms of, oh, well, you're selling more copies of our game.
Yeah.
So why do we care? That's compensation enough for us. It's free advertising, right?
And it's
in a world where they pay a ton of money to market their product.
And it's the whole thing about keeping people engaged longer with your product, right?
Exactly.
In this era of throw it away and go buy something new.
Yeah. Just to be clear, I wasn't saying that should be the case. I think it should be more like 75-25 modder to publisher.
Modder gets more, you mean?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But on top of that, you're also establishing, like, for the next Skyrim game, think of how much content I'm going to get after that as well, based on the modding system.
And it'll entice more people to mod.
You'd buy the next game knowing precedents that have been set. And that's why Call of Duty can charge $80 or $100 or whatever they want, because people buy that game and it's the only game they play all year. So
yeah. And the thing about Steam too is they already have built-in rating system, right? So if someone puts out a mod for $10 and it's absolute shit, you just need to wait like a week and watch all the bad reviews roll in, and then you know not to buy that. You know, it's kind of the same with game reviews. It's just it's more a public game review. Now, I mean, those can swing both ways, but I mean, if it's like like 10% positive reviews, you're probably going to stay away from it, right? But if it's like 80%, you might consider still buying it.
I would be pro paid mods if I was guaranteed some sort of system that guarantees it's going to work. It's not going to break anything else.
Right, and that's one of the complaints too, was that people didn't know what mods were going to conflict with what other mods.
Yeah,
and you're kind of stuck with it once you buy it.
If there was a standard interface from the publisher or the people who originally developed the game for managing those mods and stuff like that, I mean, I'm not breaking anything. I'm not fucking up my save games. I'm not doing anything like that.
Well, that's harder.
And essentially, it is
that's
hard.
Like cert.
It is hard, but essentially, if they're asking for a percentage of that mod, that's the responsibility I feel like they should be taking on as well.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's a good point. I know, I think I heard on another podcast them saying basically, like, there's no guarantee, like Frank was saying, there's no guarantee that it's maintained. There's no guarantee that if Skyrim updates that it'll still work. There's no guarantee of, like you're saying, Chris, if another mod gets installed that it won't fuck up that one.
Yeah.
So there's there's a lot to take into account in that regards. And I think that was one of the issues people had also. So
yeah, it's just like you start to wonder at a certain point, like if you're getting something for free, you know you're taking the risk and it may not work, but you just kind of want to see what's out there. But it's like if it's a paid product, are we actually, or are they actually representing the consumer at that point, or are they just saying a lot of people are playing this, let's get a little bit of money out of it, right? Yeah. Now, what I heard from Gabe, I saw a little post by him saying
your buddy Gabe.
What's that?
I said your buddy Gabe.
Oh yeah,
what
Gabe.
I heard from my boy Gabe.
We're so close. Saying that people need to develop better arguments against Valve for being evil, and saying that like if they wanted to make money, there's way better ways to do it. That, you know, in the first couple days they made something like $10,000 off paid mods, and he ended up spending like $1 million just for their email server to get all the hate mail about paid mods. So he's like, that, yeah. If I'm trying to be evil and make money off you guys, I'm not doing a good job of it, right? So, yeah. But I don't know. He constantly surprises me because you think of Valve as this like hardcore gaming company, and whenever he comes out and says something, he just drops like hardcore economics lessons on you, and he's just like a really articulate, well-spoken guy, and
it's all that Steam money he's got.
My God, it blows me away every time. Well, the Microsoft money to begin with, and then it just like from there, it just blew up. But yeah, I don't know. The way he always talks about it is he sees money as information, and as soon as you start charging people something, then the flow of money dictates what's good and what's bad, which is basically what you were saying too, with like upvotes and downvotes of mods and stuff like that. But I don't know. I read a couple of like articles about some of the downsides of it from modders, like on Reddit, and some of the things they were just saying was people stealing mods and reselling them, which is what you were saying, or people turning out cheap mods very quickly just to try and scam people to the point where they're so skeptical that it's like an iPhone market where nobody wants to pay for anything because everyone thinks it's crap. And then just to, a lot of people building mods for the purposes of self-promotion. And it's like, you can't even give something away for free anymore. Yeah. At this point, it's like even self-promotion is hard, right? So,
yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of facets to it, and it seems like... But, the post that I saw from Gaben was like, we're going to think about it. If it doesn't seem like it's in the best interest of our consumers, we'll take it down eventually. And I was thinking like, 3 months down the road. Yeah. And it was like the next day, it's like, this is canceled.
I think it's kind of refreshing that they're so willing to just so quickly change their minds.
Yeah.
But, I mean, is that good or bad though? I almost feel like sometimes the internet just gangs up, everybody piles on something, and then immediately you have no choice. You have to back
what? What are you talking about, Sean? What is this newfound...
Is it a court of some kind?
Group of opinions
people from
in the public eye.
Yep. That's a good phrase. You could
that's
use that.
Good. Of course it is, Sean. And that's the way things are going. And now you said, is this a good thing? It's the first time I've heard you reflect so negatively on the court of public opinion.
Well, you're part of the religion of Frank now.
I mean, I've always said the court of public opinion has issues, but I think in this case, like, I just think it's interesting because they did just back down so quickly. It was like, did you not think this through? I mean, obviously,
I think in this case, though, there was some glaring issues that they didn't consider.
Yeah.
Like the people using other people's mods and selling them. Which is a big problem.
Yeah,
right? It's one
or
of those,
just building upon mods. In general.
Or just building upon
how to
mods.
dole out that.
It's one of those nested problems with just like so many facets. It's like it's hard to test that internally, right? Like it's almost like you have to turn it loose and see what happens and see.
And
what
they're just lucky that they have the platform that allows them to be so flexible and like.
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of like it when a company admits like, yeah, okay, we made a mistake and we're gonna undo that, rather than they just try and stick with it and force it down your throat. But
yeah, I agree too. But the one you don't know the status of that idea at Valve.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I think it is a good idea in theory.
Gabe could have been fighting it the whole time.
Yeah,
but
maybe,
people are telling him, no, this is a good idea, blah, 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 we'll show you. And all he
He's gotta
needed,
stick with it.
all he needed was like proof that, I was right. So there's a whole politics at Valve that we don't know either. So
I think what they should do is they should do like a tip jar or pay what you want. If you really like a mod, you go on there and be like, I'll give you $1. It's pretty sweet, or a couple bucks, right?
And I'm sure that exists, right?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Just whatever.
If the modder was good enough, you could probably like embed a link in the launcher or something, like to come to my website and donate through PayPal or whatever.
But you know what? That's probably gonna, in the same sense that the court of public opinion is probably only the vocal like 5%. I think with like those types of pay what you want situations, you tend to get the people, like the really generous people cover all the deadbeats, and like the majority of people just pay nothing.
Oh, I'm sure it's like a whale situation.
Yeah, totally.
Where like the generous people are very few to the moochers.
One other thing I was just thinking about, like, aren't there situations where there's been a mod that was so big that they eventually became their own standalone game, like
Daisy.
Counter-Strike?
Yep.
And
Counter-Strike,
Daisy.
Team Fortress, Dota.
What's that other game that's just coming out with the year 1
Data
edition?
Sheet.
What's it called? State of Decay. That was like an Unreal mod of something.
So I mean,
maybe
it's not
Unreal
like
Engine
people
game.
can't, if they make great mods, it's not like they can't make
Garry's
money
Mod.
off of them, right? Like they can still
Yeah, it's been the launching point for like a lot of careers, I think, right?
that too. Yeah.
Well, I know Bethesda was using Skyrim mods as like test for hires to see how good they were at using the tools already.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what I was saying. Like just about people trying to get themselves out there and prove that they can work in a game engine, game developer capacity. Right? It's like it's the perfect situation. And if you can find people online who are like minded, you can make a little team and do something.
And it's a little off topic, but Bethesda using that to hire people is genius, because not only are you already hiring someone that knows how to use your tools, but you're hiring someone that obviously has the passion to go out of their way to learn your tools.
And gave you free work.
So it's like, it's the most genius move by them ever in like a hiring sense, and just improving the team.
Note to self.
Put out mods.
All right. Well, on that note, why don't we talk about Lost Orbit?
It's coming out on Steam.
Yes, it is.
So, I mean, I don't know how much you guys want to, like, I kind of am interested, and I think listeners would be interested to hear just how you guys got to the point where, like, you founded your own company and worked to the point where you're launching this game. And I know you've done, some of your own other games. You've done contract work on other games, but why don't you guys give just a little brief history, I guess, of Pixelnauts to start with?
Sure. I think our website or our press releases say it best. We were two friends that were sick of working for the man that decided to start their own company. So we worked at Silicon Knights like everybody else here. And we ended up leaving to go just get other jobs and move on with our lives. And Chris and myself, we were always talking about, making video games and wanting to do our own stuff. I mean, for years. And we kind of got out there. We started working on portfolios and just spent a few months just making some art. And we're like, you know what? Instead of going to a bigger studio and getting out somewhere again, we just decided, let's just give it a try. We have some friends that wanted to kind of start their own companies too. They were all artists. So we're like, why don't we start kind of like an outsourcing studio, just develop some art, and then eventually build a team and make a game. So we had about 6 people or so. And then by the time we incorporated and we're about to move in, there was 2 of us.
Oh, really?
And,
I didn't even know that.
So there was a lot of people.
No.
Yeah, there was about 6, and everybody was on board. Everybody was like, "Yes, this is going to be great. We're going to start our own thing." So me and Chris made a plan. We're like, "All right." So we incorporated. Everybody got on the papers, and we're like, "Okay, so we're going to start in January." We got office space that we went through the approval for the generator where we work out of. It was like a competitive space, so we had to do an application. We all got in there and we sat down. We're like, "Okay, so everybody contribute like $4,000, or whatever it was. We'll buy some software, right? Everybody gets a copy of Max, whatever, that kind of stuff, right? Or a few copies of Max. And then, we'll go out from there." And then everyone's like, "Oh, well, how much are we going to get paid?" And all that. I'm like, "Well, nothing." Minus $4,000 for the next,
Typical indie story.
yeah, for the next, 4 or 5 years. And then, like the month later, everybody was gone. And it was just me and Chris. Everyone's like, "Oh, we're not going to get paid," and like, where was the money coming from? Anyways, yeah, typical
Reality
small
took
business.
hold.
This is breaking news for me too.
Oh, you didn't know that, eh?
Yeah.
Gaben was right. Money is information.
Yeah, make money.
And information wants to be free, right? So
So
Or in someone's pocket.
yeah, it's that's how it happened. And I mean, it was good that it happened right off the bat. Everybody was on good terms. Everybody
No
exited
lawsuits
the company
involved.
Fine. If they wanted to sue, they would owe the company money. If they wanted to take a percentage of it, because the company was just negative. So it was good in that sense that only the people that really wanted to do it stuck around. Unfortunately, it took a bit of squeezing out to do. I think my biggest disappointment with that whole thing is that we picked a company name that I like, but it was a bit more serious by the end because we wanted to do like outsourcing, and so we're like, it should be kind of fun but a little serious. So we stuck with Pixelnauts because our first idea is when we just wanted to do like a game company, we're just like Uppercut Studios or Face Punch Studios. I forgot what they were.
Yeah, it's funny. It actually like watching Silicon Valley just recently, like listening to all these people talk about like how they come up, like everyone has arguments over the name and all that kind of thing, and it's like, in the end it really doesn't matter, but it's just like it's so much effort is exerted right at the beginning trying to decide what your t-shirt's going to look like.
And even when you come up with a name you like,
Yeah.
making sure no one else has the name,
Yeah.
similar stuff, like it's just
Yeah.
you're walking in between.
yeah, what about you guys?
Why?
Because I noticed there is a Twitter account that's Pixelnauts, and it's not you guys.
Yeah, so we were basically the first Pixelnauts. There was one game review site that popped up, the Pixelnauts, like just briefly after we started. And at the beginning, you have to talk to lawyers and stuff to get yourself kind of started up. And if you start talking to lawyers in depth, they're always just like, trademark yourself, patent things, copyright this. You got to protect yourself.
And make sure you come back to us for advice.
Yeah, exactly. And Alex and I are like, we're fucking broke, dude. Like, yeah, we could spend, the next 20 grand or something that comes in doing all this stuff to protect the nothing that we have in our bank accounts.
Sounds like my wife.
Or you could just, start trying to make something and hope that your name comes out that way. And so that's the avenue that we took. And since then, there's been a bunch of different Pixelnauts that have kind of cropped up. There's like a Pixelnauts game studio run by like a husband and wife, and they're university level. I think she's a public school educator and he's a university educator. That just, blatantly have our name and logo. That we have
the same logo?
It's pretty similar. Yeah, it's an orange astronaut. Like it's with the end. Like it's very similar, but it's just like.
Gotta drop a cease and desist on that.
Having worked at Silicon Knights, we made the decision at some point, like we're not gonna focus on lawsuits. We're gonna make games. So it hasn't impacted our business so far. So we haven't really bothered to go after anybody. Not that we really would, but yeah, it's
Take all that teacher money from them.
Yeah, all that sweet teacher money.
As your legal counsel, I would advise. Sue the fucking shit.
Well, it's funny because there's this one trademark lawyer that he comes out to, like, we work out of the Generator in St. Catharines, and it's a multimedia facility, and they have these like mashups, these like socializing get-togethers once every quarter. And there's a guy who's a lawyer who specializes in patents that comes out regularly, and he deals with patenting of like video game, I guess, ideas or like intellectual properties. And so he's kind of always saying to us like, oh yeah, you should, if you come up with something interesting, you should definitely patent it because they're patentable.
And here's my card.
And the anecdote that he always cites is how Nintendo patented the insanity meter or the sanity meter for Eternal Darkness. And
but wasn't that taken from
by everybody, right? Like
no, but like didn't they take it from that role-playing game, the Call of Cthulhu? Isn't that part of that system?
I didn't even know it existed before that, but apparently it's patented by Nintendo, but they haven't bothered to like go after any other, major RPG that's taken that idea and used it, right? Since then. And of course, Silicon Knights being out of business, it's like it doesn't necessarily help you to have a patent unless you can actually enforce it. So
yeah,
how did we get here? What were we talking about? The start of the company, okay. Like all of a sudden we're talking about patents and stuff.
This is important stuff. So you guys are both artists, and so the initial idea was we're going to outsource art, but you also did want to do your own stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, the idea for us, like Alex was saying, we were always talking about not only our own game ideas, but around the water cooler or like getting coffee in the morning, just talking about what are you playing, what am I playing, what sucks about it, what's good about it, what would I change if I could to make it better. And so we decided we wanted to make our own games, but when we lost some of our partners to begin with, we're like, hit by a pretty harsh reality that we needed to make money in order to be able to make our own games. So I remember, going into the office and sitting down across from Alex and being like, okay, well, we thought we were going to have 6 people and now we have 2. And our contributions had to go up significantly, and we basically contributed all we had. And I'm like, we got 3 months, basically, between like buying computers and software and all that. We got 3 months to make some money or we're out on our asses. So yeah, to begin with, we were just doing outsourcing, and we teamed up with basically anyone and everyone we could that had a cool project going on. And the point was kind of to get an idea of the different platforms while making money, so we could decide what platform we wanted to ultimately release our product on. So we did a bunch of games. We did a mobile and Android game with a company out of Toronto called Raccoon Rising. We did Waveform.
Yep.
On Steam.
I think you guys also helped out at Bedlam a bit, didn't you?
We were going to.
Oh, that fell through.
Yeah, before the carpet got kind of pulled out.
Yeah, that happened.
Underneath everybody.
That was a big old carpet.
Yeah, that was sad. I was really looking forward to working on that project too. It sounded pretty cool. Yeah, so we did that. We managed to team up with a company called Compulsion out of Montreal and worked on Contrast, which was a PS4 launch title. So that was pretty big for us. So that was PS4, Steam, and eventually Xbox One as well. What else did we do? Yeah, we did like a web-based game called Dodgebots, which is like a robot dodgeball game where you gambled with real money.
Nice.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was interesting. And we did our own little like virtual tour of our facility that we did for the incubator that we were at, called Generator Experience. But basically we're just trying to explore the different avenues and see where we wanted to be. And by the end of it, we decided that Steam was a pretty good fit. Mobile was not necessarily the best fit, and that we would love to be on consoles if it was at all possible, but it seemed like a lot of red tape to go through to start with. So we on Steam.
You guys took up Unity to make Lost Orbit, right? So
Yeah,
you're
that's
kind
right.
of right on the wave of this sort of free engine revolution we're in.
I guess so, yeah.
Could you guys talk about like your experience using Unity and how it was to develop the game using that?
Oh, it's really hard to talk about our first experience with Unity without bashing our previous engine a little bit.
Go ahead.
So we were working at SK previously, and they had begun developing their own engine, which was very early on and had its share of hurdles to overcome with regards with working on it on a day-to-day basis. And so getting out of that and starting with Unity, I think at the time we sat down and just tried to decide what engines were available and what would be a good fit. One of our friends who worked at a company called Gans said that Unity, he was like, Unity's up and coming, it's huge, it's going to be great. And at the time, I remember thinking, like, I've heard a little bit about Unity, but I don't really know much about it. And we kind of checked it out, and just by comparison to what we were using at SK, it was just like, it was freeing, like liberating, just nice to be able to get something into the engine so quickly. And yeah, like you could download it for free and mess around with it. If you wanted to get pro, it was like very affordable, no royalties based on like, you know, what you wanted to sell. So it just seemed like a good fit for a startup indie studio. So when we started up on Raccoon Rising, it was the guy was using Cocos 2D and ended up switching to Unity based on our recommendation. And
Cocos 2D is a free mobile graphics engine.
Yeah.
I just like Unity compared to any engine I've used in terms of being able to turn things around quickly.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's easy to do stuff and play around. It's got tons of limitations too. So the deeper you get into making a game, I think the greater your struggles would be. It's really if your ambition is very high, and I don't want to say this, but definitely polish level. I think like depending on how hardcore your game is, it's going to present problems.
Excellent for rapid prototyping.
It is.
So we came off of partially working on Contrast. We were going back and forth on that, and they were using Unreal 3 at the time. And so it was awesome because we, you know...
Familiar.
Well, yeah, very familiar for us, right? But seeing how much trouble their designers had just trying to get ideas in there and all that, and it really made sense for those guys because they needed the source code. They needed to pay for the license to change all the lighting and all the, you know, crazy stuff they were doing. But for myself and Chris, like, we picked up Unity, and within like a week, we had like stupid little games running. It was amazing. Like that blew us away, right? Something that I couldn't even imagine myself making in Unreal on my own, or like with two artists. You know, maybe using Kismet, we could put something together, but not like we had like I made like a little pirate ship game where you just shoot cannons. You know, we just had like people running around. It was amazing what you could get done quickly.
Just for the listeners, Kismet is the scripting tool for Unreal that allows you to sort of play around in it.
Yeah, it's like a visual scripting tool, and it's awesome for what it's used for, but I mean, it's not used to make like a whole game. Yeah. And it was, I mean, like Chris said, I mean, I think the best part about Unity is it was cheap. There was no royalties. You didn't have to negotiate anything. Like, we were going to go to Unreal at that time and be like, hey, we're two dudes. Can you guys license Unreal to us?
We don't have $1 million.
Yeah, we don't have money or anything, but so, I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer on that side of things.
Yeah.
So then where'd the idea for Lost Orbit come in?
It was kind of dumb, actually. So we were working on Raccoon Rising, and we were doing a name slate for the game, which is like the little helmet coming up. And so we were just trying to, like, by the end it was just a helmet, but we were trying to think of ideas. And so we had this idea where the name would come up, and the little astronaut would just like jump off the name and just like float through space or something like that. I don't even remember exactly how it went. And we're like, hey, that'd be a fun little game if you were just like an astronaut doing stuff, and then just kind of went to that.
The other thing that I remember thinking about at the time was there's this tiny little, I think you can download it for free now, but it was a game called Gravitational Combat that I used to play with my brother-in-law all the time, and it was basically like a traditional artillery game, but it took place in space, and there would be a series of randomly generated planets with gravitational pull around them, and so you had to arc your bullet around the gravitational pull and use it to redirect your bullet and hit the other guy when he was hiding behind a planet. And I remember just thinking that was like a kind of a cool mechanic and something that would be fun. And then one of the other inspirations, I think, was that game company had this game called Flow back in the day. And the version that I played was like a web-based version. And it was very, well, as the name suggests, like there was a lot of like nice, gentle, subtle iteration of like the movements. Like it flowed very well, and you basically played as a little microbe, and you were kind of swimming around this layer of microorganisms, and you could basically go up to one and kind of attack its weak points, break it up into pieces that you could digest, and then by eating it, grow and generate new limbs and weapons and
It was a bit of
ways to swim.
a form of a next-gen snake, almost.
Exactly,
Or Mr.
yeah.
Nibbles for the
And then
quick
once
days.
you got to a certain size, you could descend to the next level and face larger guys. And just, yeah, like the flow of that game was like definitely an inspiration as well.
And so by now the game is nothing like any of those things, just through development. But that's how it kind of started.
So is the main character in Lost Orbit actually supposed to be like the Pixelnauts guy? Or is that
I
not
guess.
really
He's just a
something-
dude.
Okay.
I don't know. The game is completely different from any of the ideas we had in the beginning.
Why don't
Kinda
you?
funny.
Why don't you guys give the elevator pitch of what Lost
I'll give
Orbit
that to
is
Chris, he's
before
good at
we
it.
go kind of too far forward?
Oh my God, I've done this so many times. It's like, you know when you sign your signature on a check like 1,000 times and then you start doing it and you forget how, like halfway through? That's my dread
Well-
every time I start this pitch.
Okay, so in terms of that, do you like doing it?
Do I like doing
Yeah,
it?
like I love signing my signature. I think I think
Do I little like hearts above the
no, I think I have the best signature ever, and I will just write it for fun, psychopathically. So I'm just curious: do you dread it, or
I don't know. It's okay.
are you just sick of the repetition?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of sick of the repetition.
Well, too bad you're doing it again.
Shit. All right. So Lost Orbit follows Harrison, who is a maintenance worker who gets stranded in deep space after his ship gets destroyed. And you're pretty much screwed. Basically, you're on this relay, and you have your little jetpack and your improvised set of equipment, and you're 4 systems away from your home planet. And there's no way of communicating with the rest of your civilization. So he takes the plunge and basically decides he's going to try and make it across those 4 solar systems by himself, just with his jetpack, and try and rejoin his civilization and find somebody who's going to be able to help him. But you're pretty much doomed. We like to call it a space death simulator. Yeah, you're going to die a lot of times. It's very difficult, but
And it's sort of like a 2D action.
Space dodge 'em up,
yeah.
Yeah, it's like a 3. Well, it's like a 2.5D. I
top
guess.
down,
Yeah, top
dodge 'em
down.
up, high speed, twitch controls.
There you go.
It's got it all.
Yeah, that's
RPG
pretty good.
elements.
So what I wanted to say is I like when Chris does that because it reminds me of old school when Will Ferrell does his like speech. And he zones out and he just comes out and he's like, what happened? Chris is just in there and he does it and he's out.
That's how you debate. No, it's true. Like whenever I start giving that speech, my eyes just kind of cock over to the left side of my head, and I'm not really looking at the person. I'm just kind of.
If I closed my eyes, I would have thought Electric Playground was on TV. Like how there's always that interview. Explain your product to us.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, it is interesting. Like to me, it like
Well, I was just going to say, just in terms from my perspective, talking about the origins of the game. Mm-hmm. So and it's interesting because we looked back at old builds recently. So when I came into the office, it was kind of what they said. It was just a more physics-based version of going around planets and
Yeah, I mean
a gravitational pull, kind of like you said.
Yeah,
And that was, I guess, close to 2 years ago.
yeah. So basically, where we were at when Frank came on was we had like the shittiest prototype ever. Like,
I kind of like this. When we played
Well,
it the
have
other
you-
day, I was
well,
like,
have
yeah,
you-
this is actually pretty good.
did you play it the other day?
Yeah, well, we were looking at it, yeah.
Oh, sweet. And we found out that Frank was available, and
Very available.
extremely. And we're able to cobble together this kind of prototype that we brought to GDC. But I'd say the main difference from what it was in the beginning was, like Frank was saying at the beginning, you were kind of at the mercy of the gravitational forces, where you were just kind of leaping from planet to planet and choosing. It was more like timing based and just trying to choose the trajectory where you were leaving. And then at some point we hit the turning point of being able to control your dude and like having the jetpack system and being able to fly wherever you want while making use of those forces was just way cooler. And it just,
Probably less frustrating too. I
And
think.
going fast.
for sure. And yeah, and beyond that, just the game just kept getting faster and faster and faster, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. Actually presented its own series of challenges, though, because in PC gaming or console gaming, vertically scrolling games are not all that common. Typically, you have a game where it either you can go in any direction or it's like a side scroller, just because the format of the screen works a lot better that way. So we underwent a lot of growing pains trying to figure out a way where we could make the game faster but still not kill you unjustly.
because you can't see, right? So
Right. So in the beginning, the game was completely top down, and trying to see something that was like off in the distance ahead of you was impossible.
yeah, right. Yeah.
And it just kind of shifted perspective to be more 3/4 as we progressed.
Yeah, it's, talking about the speed is kind of an interesting thing, because I was thinking about that. I was playing it last night, and it reminded me, for some weird reason, of Sonic the Hedgehog.
I would say that, and for me, Mario Kart, I think, is a huge influence.
I'm not sure where the Mario
You're not
Kart
chasing
connection
anybody,
comes
though.
in,
Wait.
but I think...
like the...
You think it's a huge influence?
No, it is. Especially the longer you play.
Yeah?
That's... there's definitely Sonic Mario Kart.
Well, but the thing with Sonic,
on.
though, is like, because I never really played that game much as a kid, and I didn't, have a Sega Genesis or anything, but I remember always being a little bit frustrated with it because, the thing that was cool about it is you could move so fast, right? And that was what they always sold it on. It gets going so fast that at some point you lose control, right? And so I think that's the thing with that game, is that it's very much a balance of, well, you want to go fast because it's fun, but you got to just be right on the cusp of still being able to control it. And that's what I found interesting about Lost Orbit is, like, hard parts I would kind of have to slow down to go through it, but I didn't want to play through the whole game slow, even if maybe that actually strategically would be better. I mean, I don't know if your score would suffer, and obviously your time.
Sure, yeah,
would
it
suffer,
definitely does, yeah. But we wanted to make it a little bit broad. Like, I love playing Sonic the Hedgehog, but you're right. It's like a lot of it was level memorization, so that you could actually go fast. Like, the worst part of it was losing all your rings and having to be slow and try and accelerate again and get all your rings back.
Well, the biggest problem with Sonic for me is there's this speed factor, but the problem is they have a vertical exploration to the level that, like, you're fighting two things. Do I want to explore or do I want to go fast? I can't do both.
Yeah.
And I never thought, I like Sonic, but I never thought it was great at that. And I'd say the difference with Lost Orbit is you're on a single track, so you're not missing stuff or flying by something and saying, oh shit, I missed something. Everything is presented to you as you're going, and it's just a matter of if you got it or missed it, and you can go back if you want, but I doubt you will.
And certainly I think there's like things that were employed to help make it more accessible for people that wanted to go fast. The tilting of the camera is definitely one of them, but also just like once you hit a certain speed, we start to like pull the camera out just to give you a little bit more space to see what's going on. Early on when we first started developing it, like a lot of the time your character was in the middle of the screen, and Frank did a lot of like camera tricks to make sure that like, okay, yeah, you're always at the bottom of the screen, and just trying to give you enough lead up space that you can be going really fast and have enough time still to react at the last second and get out of the way of something, which is something that I don't think Sonic did a good job at.
But that also is like an awesome feeling when you are going fast and still able to dodge and stuff. Then you feel like you're hitting your groove, I guess.
Yeah, we wanted people to be able to react to everything, not have to memorize. Like, obviously, if you want to be amazing at the game, you got to memorize sections a little bit. But we wanted to let people at least have the chance to react, right? Like, the controls are really twitchy, and we hope that we gave enough room to let people see. And I mean, whatever, if you suck, then you'll die. But that's any game.
That's me.
But I was looking at the leaderboards before you got here. You beat one of my times. I'm kind of
Oh, that hurts. He's hurting right now. He's just thinking about going up and beating your score.
Frank.
I was going to say, yeah, even if you're good, you're going to die a lot. So
Yeah, but it is one of those games too where the checkpoints are plentiful, and you also restart so quickly that you're right back in it.
yeah.
And
yeah.
you guys, you mentioned the game flow, but I know like at Silicon Knights we always talked about the concept of flow, and I think like it's
Concept in quotes.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know if any of our games at Silicon Knights really fit that bill, but this does, because it's like you're in the zone, right? Like you're reacting to it, and you're not really thinking about it so much. And there's like only a handful of games that I can think of where I really feel that. And I don't know, Frank, if you have other ones that you can think of.
I'm just thinking X-Men Destiny flows like a motherfucker. I don't know what you're talking about. Anything I worked on flow like
No, thanks for saying that, though. That's a big compliment. I appreciate it. I think one of the things we took away from I don't want to bash on Silicon Knights, but like in Two Human, when we were playing it, just witnessing the Valkyrie coming down.
Right. Yeah.
Like there was a death sequence in that game where every time you died, you kind of had to watch this like 20-second cinematic, which was supposed to be like this moment of reprieve and whatnot, but it just got irritating. It felt like almost like the game was mocking you for dying. And that's something right out of the gate. We're like, okay, if this game is going to be as hard as it is, we need to make it easy to try again, because that's all people really want to do. They're like, okay, I can do this, just give me another chance, right? So that was one of the things we spent a lot of time trying to make sure was right, was that you could get back into it as soon as possible. And then in addition to that, we knew, since we were making a game that was very difficult and people were going to die a lot, that we wanted to make deaths kind of entertaining in and of themselves. And so the violence, like the gore when you hit something in Lost Orbit, is really over the top. Like, I think the scene that initially we thought of was in Army of Darkness, when the guy gets thrown into the pit and the geyser of blood comes out. We're just like, it's so violent, you can't help but laugh. And even though it's in like a tragic circumstance, it's hilarious. And so I think that's one of the strengths of the game too, is like, even when you lose, you have a good time doing it.
Plus, the little robot sidekick makes fun of you when you die, so that kind of helps.
Yeah, so actually, let's talk about that a little bit, because that's another thing that's kind of interesting. I mean, the game is sort of, I don't know, I guess I would say it's kind of arcadey for the most part, but you guys made the effort to sort of tell a bit of a story. There's some voiceover narration throughout the game. Where did the idea for that come from, and sort of what was your intention behind that?
I think the game started off being, like you said, very arcadey. We just wanted to make, fast levels and make it really fun. But Chris and myself are really big fans of dark humor and just and all that. And I think one of the things we learned on working on other games and seeing other people work on games is that you don't want to take yourself too seriously, right? You want to have some fun no matter how dire a situation is. And things, if they're really bad, if you take them really seriously, they seem more funny. Whereas if you add humor to it, they seem more realistic. So Chris was our main story guy, and he really took it upon himself to make sure that the story kind of fit the kind of situation you're in. But I'll let him talk about that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say one of the things that really inspired me was, I remember getting into work at Silicon Knights one morning early so that I could download Portal when it first came out. And I remember playing through that game and being blown away. And I love the gameplay of that game, but the thing that really blew me away was that they were able to tell a story with basically no characters. Maybe like one character, right? And two if you want to count the companion cube. But I remember thinking at the end of that game after beating it, I'm like, anybody who doesn't take this as a lesson on how to like tell stories in a game is like, that's the mark of a new generation, in my opinion. I was like, this is, those people who rely on tons of characters to tell a story, they're dinosaurs at this point. And plus, I don't know, that was a huge inspiration for me.
Plus, there's no real cutscenes. Like the story unfolds through the gameplay.
Yeah.
And so more people are doing that now, but I think for a long time the idea was play, stop and watch the story, play, stop and watch the story.
Yeah. And in addition to that too, you have a main character who doesn't talk, but you get a sense of her character based on Gladys's reactions. And to me, that was like huge. I thought that was really cool. And as environment artists, when we were working at Silicon Knights, we didn't have the opportunity to tell stories very often. And so the way that we used to try and tell stories was by setting up an environment or trying to tell a story through the environment. So I remember when we were first working on Lost Orbit, thinking about, what kind of things can we tell the player solely just from the way that we build the environment. And just trying to, use that for inspiration was pretty cool too. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people who think that because something is a small game that, there's no point in having a story at all. But I think we were always of the opinion, like, there's no reason we can't have a story. It doesn't have to be a big story, but it can be something.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long did from start to finish, like what was the development cycle on this thing?
It was kind of a staggered process, to be honest. I mean, we developed a prototype pretty early on and kind of refined that for a while. And I'd say, when did we start on like full production? It would have been like April or something like that.
So we brought on Frank for a bit to help us with the initial prototype so we could go get funding and kind of pitch it around and stuff like that. That was, like 2 and a bit years ago almost. Yeah, it was quite a long time. And then myself and Chris worked on Contrast while Frank and Sloan kind of did a lot of the back-end stuff, just setting up a lot of the mechanics, all that kind of stuff. And then myself and Chris have been on the game full-time for about a year and a little bit now. So I'd say like 2 years. 2 and a bit now, on and off, kind of.
Right.
I think because like Frank and our other programmer Sloan, neither of them worked full time, so I think all the hours they put in have been about as much time as me and Chris have put in, like over the year and a half. So I'd say something about something like that, about a year and a half.
Okay, and so I guess like I don't know if this is worth talking about, but like I was just wondering, like what was your basic process for working on it? Like I guess mainly for that year that you guys were just focused on the game. Like at that point you had a prototype, you're just building new levels, but like was it that was your main focus, like every day just going in and
that was it? That's all we were doing. I mean, once we got off Contrast and it launched, we helped them a little bit with their Xbox version, so we got pulled off here and there a tiny bit. And we did some other stuff personally on the side, like we taught. I helped on Citizens a little bit in the early get-go. For the most part, it was coming in doing 8 to 10 hours at Pixelnauts, and our process was, I mean, it's our first game, so we really kind of try and figure out what everybody had to do. We were a really small team as well. It was myself and Chris full-time, and then Frank and Sloan part-time.
And Sloan was probably 3 to 1 or 4 to 1 compared to my time.
Something like that, yeah. Recently, especially.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, yeah, at least, yeah, probably like 3 to 1, 2 to 1. He wasn't even on there full time as well. But we let them set up a lot of the base kind of mechanics of what we kind of thought we wanted. And the game really evolved as we worked on it. I mean, I think I was probably finished about half the levels before we really figured out what the game really was. I remember when we first made it, you would get through a level and maybe like I was trying to aim for like 3-4 minutes per level, and those levels take about a minute and a half now, with all the changes we went through with making it fast. And that's the thing we found out as we kept going, as we played the game, as we watched other people play the game. We realized the thing that they loved the most was just Givener. And then we made those accommodations to push that. We upped our RPG menu, our base speed, added more fuel, that kind of stuff to just really make the game what it became. And so our process was kind of a trial and error kind of process, more so than I mean, all games are like that. You got to play them to know if they're fun. It probably took a little longer than we would have liked in the beginning to really get that idea of what the game was. Because like we told you, it started off as this flowy kind of slow game and puzzly game, and then ended up being this like really fast-paced, kick-ass kind of, get through a level kind of game. So that's kind of it.
Okay.
I always find it interesting how games change like that.
Oh, so much
through development. I don't think people really grasp that concept of how much a game can change from conception to out the door.
And you have to be okay with that, right? I mean, if you're not, if you're stuck in an idea when you first start, like if me and Chris were like, no, we are making this game that we envisioned in the beginning, probably would have been kind of crappy.
Yeah.
You like, because you have ideas on paper and they sound good, but if you play them, if you're not willing to let go of ideas that people tell you suck, or embrace ideas that they like, you're like, yeah, I know you like that, but that's not really what the game's about. You're going to come out with probably a okay game at the best. I think
that's the one thing I've learned over the years is like listening to player feedback is so important, because they're stepped away from the game. They're looking at it with fresh eyes, and you've been staring at it for like 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever you guys are saying.
And you got to pay attention to yourself too, right? Like really try and see what you like about the game instead of liking your ideas. Because I think a lot of people get caught up on ideas, right? People want to just make this game. They spend all these years making design documents before they ever start prototyping anything. They get in there. If it sucks, they're like, I just spent a year and a half like writing all this stuff. I can't throw it away.
Yeah, you got to find the fun as early as possible.
Right? Yeah. We went to GDC a few years ago, and one of the people from that game company did a little talk. And one of the things I always remember her saying, that they kind of embrace at the company is this idea of failing fast. They're like, we try and do things as quickly as we can in game, so we realize when they suck. Right? You don't want to realize that you're failing a year and a half into production, or something like that, and you're like, oh my god, we wasted we textured everything in the game, and the game sucks, and we got to redo it all. You don't want to be there.
I remember watching Sony Santa Monica talk or something about the same thing. God of War would go through, they'd white box every level with literally nothing except cubes, just to make sure that game mechanics were fun in that space.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you bring that up. That's one of my favorite examples of that kind of idea.
Yeah.
I remember, I think God of War 1 or 2 had a developer diary if you beat the game. And they had this thing, it was their pitch to Sony to make God of War.
Yeah.
And so it was one of the first areas with a ship, and you can swim, you can climb the ship, you could fight all the enemies, and it was just crappy looking, right? It was just white box. And they're like, yeah, so we showed this to Sony, we showed them all the things you could do, how you can fight, and they're like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then the very last room of that demo was just beautiful. They just did the art for this one room, full lighting, and then that was their like, this is what the game's like. Oh, and this is what it'll look like. And they just said, Sony was just like, sold. Cool, we get it. You guys know what the game's going to be, and we trust you to make it look good too. And that's it.
Beauty.
So you guys said Steam was kind of your target platform that you thought was the best fit for you guys, but you're also launching on PS4?
That's right, yeah.
So Is it just Steam and PS4, or are there other consoles?
Right now, it's just Steam and PS4.
Okay.
We'd like to do other ones, but we'll see, right?
So what was the process of, like, I guess, deciding to go to the console, getting involved with Sony, all that stuff?
I think we always wanted to. Steam was really approachable in the beginning, right? You go through Greenlight, you get on there. It was fairly easy. And I mean, consoles were always an intimidating thing. When we started the company almost 5 years ago now, I never would have thought we would be able to get on a console anytime soon until we maybe made a couple games and people knew about us. And it was kind of luck. We ended up working with the Compulsion guys. They worked with Sony. They ended up introducing us to their PR manager that we ended up talking to and kind of getting in there. And it just kind of happened. I mean, we always wanted to do it. We always wanted to get in on console stuff. And luckily, much like the Unity thing, we were there at the right time, and those avenues opened up for indie games to be able to put out console games. And it helped that we were on Unity as well. I think when they found that out, they're like, "Oh, cool, we'll get you Unity, and we know you guys could do it because you're not gonna have to rebuild anything from scratch and all that kind of stuff." So,
right,
kind of lucked out that way.
Was there ever any, like, I don't know if this is, you kind of already touched on it, I guess, but like, was there any thought to mobile at all? Like, is that something you might do in the future, or is this not really?
We talked about mobile in the beginning because we did Raccoon Rising on mobile, so we're like, okay, we'll do that, and we'll do a Steam version and try and make some money and a name for ourselves, kind of thing. But we realized we hate making games for mobile, right? And so the original game that was just kind of flowy and slow, we're like, yeah, it'll probably work for mobile. You click and touch and time your stuff. And as the game got fast and crazy, we realized we needed buttons and, boosts and bombs and barrel rolls. We're like, that's not going to fly on a mobile platform. And the trouble we went through at the time trying to get a game that looked really good on mobile, it was just too much work.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say, too, is just like the audience that you have on mobile is like very different in terms of what they'll pay for a game than on Steam. From our experience from working with like a bunch of different companies on a bunch of different projects, we were like, okay, the market right now on mobile is like free to play, and you have to build in. And I mean, the thing that we didn't want to do with that was, the reason that made us not like that model was that it felt like you had two roles that were kind of opposing each other. You had like a game designer who was trying to entertain the player, and then you had the like revenue designer who was trying to annoy the player into paying the company some money, right? And it's just like, that's such a different game. Like trying to make a game that's freemium on touchscreen is so different from a paid premium product with a controller.
And to do it like quote unquote right.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, you need to also like have all the analytics and watch them and see like what people are buying, and then adjust your prices and like put sales on at specific times. Like it's such a nightmare from like a game creator perspective. Like no one wants to deal with that crap.
No, and here's the bottom line that nobody on mobile wants to hear, and I'm going to let you all know it. It's like the versions are not the same. Everybody says, they'll ask them, is it the same game on PS4 as it is on iPhone? And they'll go, well, the experience is the same. And it's some bullshit like backpedaling to try and basically say, yeah, it's the same game when it's not. Because we all know the processing power is not the same, right?
We have people asking us if it's the same on PS4 and 3DS. And we're like, well, it definitely doesn't look the same.
No.
Definitely doesn't look the same, but the content is there.
Yeah, like the content, of course, the experience is going to be as close as you can make it on whatever platform you put it out on.
I do find it funny that people even try to make that comparison.
Yeah, they ask.
It's such a different, especially like a phone to a PS4.
For sure.
Hilarious.
Well, it's different from a freemium model too, where the actual experience isn't the same.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Free versus here, that there.
$15.
But I'm just
can't
saying,
access
you
this.
can't dare to say something like that to somebody who's trying to promote, or like some sort of journalist, right? Because they'll have a field day with it.
I dare you. I guess
It doesn't
you
even
already
matter
did it.
because we're not. We're not.
You
on
already
mobile
did. That's why they're not on
platforms.
mobile.
Never
anymore.
say never.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is interesting because when I first started playing the game, first couple levels, it seems almost like it's a very simple, like left, right, and it seems like it could be mobile. But then you're right. It's the further you get on, there's a lot of buttons. There's a lot of different things you need to be able to access. And
around the time where we were like, we've run out of buttons on a controller, we're like, yeah, this is not going to work.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I have too many other questions. I mean, I guess sort of a generic question I would be interested to hear about any game really is just like, what are you guys most proud of in the game? And like, what would you do differently?
What would I do differently? I don't know. I'm proud of a lot of things in the game, actually. I think the music came out really well. In terms of like, we were talking about this the other day too, like, one of the good signs I think when you're developing a game is if you played it as long as you have over the course of developing it, and you still enjoy playing it. And I still do. I still like playing the game, and this is definitely the game I enjoyed the most playing at the end of development. So I think that's a good sign. I think it's I don't know. I don't know what I would change.
It's funny you say that because I literally said that exact same thing about Citizens like no more than 2 days ago to someone else, like word for word. And it's just funny to hear it come out of your mouth as well, like right when I was thinking it. And it's fun to, or from my perspective, it's like really rewarding to have that be the case.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like as far as being proud of what you produced.
For sure.
And it's just like a different feeling than like other game experience developing I've had. It's just a different feeling.
I would say the thing that I'm most proud of is, of the game, not something I did, is to shake up the landscape of indie games visually. I feel like there's a trend with pixel art and an art style with games that has gotten very repetitive. I think it's cool to see a game that looks different.
It's a fair statement.
There may be hidden features in the game that attest to this.
Frank's hinting at things that we don't want to talk about, but yeah. I don't know.
Well, I just think that these guys are good at art, and it's an indie game that has really nice looking art in it. And I just beat Shovel Knight. I fucking loved it. I love everything about it. I just don't need every game to look like that.
Right.
And I feel like we're getting closer and closer to that. And I like when you get a totally different look for a game.
Well, I'll let you answer the question if you had more stuff to say, but we'll come back to that.
I think I'm proud just in the sense that it's our first game and it doesn't suck.
Always a good thing.
I'm proud that we were able to make the choices we made and like we all had an idea of what we wanted to make in the beginning, kind of going back to that and be able to step back and be like, okay, that idea was dumb. or this idea is better, and change it to make the game what it was. I think the game organically kind of happened based on everybody's ideas, everybody's input. And I think that was cool. It was nice seeing the whole team actually get in there and make it what it was and kind of like sculpt it into what it became, which is totally not the game we ever set out to make in the sense of, this is what we wrote down on paper. Because it's totally not. We have the original design docs. The game sucked.
Well, it's a good example of like needing to play it and needing to experience it to really know if what your ideas are really fun.
Yeah.
And it's just tough to do that without prototyping. Like I think Chris, you're saying, like whoever was talking about needing to rapidly prototype to find what's not fun and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think my most enjoyable thing on the game so far is doing a couple of the shows. We did PAX a couple months ago, and seeing somebody come up to it and just be great at it right off the bat. Like some people suck and whatever.
We'll forget about that.
That's yeah. I mean, it happens, right? But to make a game that somebody can come in and play it, and then come back with other people and be like, "You got to play this game." To make a game that at least some people so far, I mean, it's not out yet, but so far have enjoyed, is pretty awesome. So,
yeah, I agree. That's definitely like the best feeling that you can get from making a game is having somebody come up and like truly enjoy it and be better at it than you will ever be right off the bat. And yeah, conversely, watching somebody like suffer through it is probably the worst feeling ever. But yeah, I don't really think I have many regrets in terms of development. It's just like there were avenues that we pursued where, at a certain point we're just like, yeah, that's not really that compelling or that great. But we never would have known that, starting out. So it's like the only way you can get through that is by like making the mistake, I guess. So
Right.
Yeah. I don't think I have many regrets in that sense, and the game is still, I think it's great.
It's one of the advantages of self-publishing is that you don't have any tight deadlines where you need to cut out large chunks of your game to meet.
And you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
right?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess the flip side of that, and kind of getting back to what Frank was talking about with, like, I think the reason why people do pixel art and stuff like that, aside from the fact that they like it, is that it's marketable. It immediately draws in a crowd, and people are like, I know they're going for a retro aesthetic. I like that. I will buy that.
You said
game.
the other word I hate in the world.
Right.
Marketing.
So what I'm wondering is,
thanks.
How do you guys like? How do you guys get the word out about the game? Like, what would your advice be to other indie developers? Like, it seems like the shows that you guys go to are a big deal.
Yeah, going to shows is definitely like a big component of it that we didn't do a ton of at the beginning, and then we kind of got into more and more. Just like not only just for getting the word out about the game, but also just like you guys were saying, getting the feedback from the players, right? Like when we first started, we were making a game basically for ourselves and kind of like thinking, yeah, there's probably a demographic out there that's somewhat similar. And then from going to shows, we're like, there is a demographic. Those people do exist. And when you find them, it's like, mine them for all the information they have. Like, just don't let them leave. Ask them what's good. Ask them what sucks. And I think even just telling them that you're okay with them hurting your feelings is like the best. And if you can get kids to play your game, that's great too, because they don't care about your feelings. They will tell you stink to your face and then laugh at you when you cry. So yeah, that was definitely helpful. Alex has done a lot of stuff on in terms of like social media and whatnot, but like having that up and just like trying to connect with other developers, especially indie developers, and share experiences with like what you're doing and struggles that you're having is definitely like a huge aspect of it as well. But yeah, just trying to balancing getting something done with getting out there and showing people what you've gotten done, which is it is a hard balance. Like when you talk to marketing people, they're just like ecstatic for you to get out there all the time. But it is a full-time job if you approach it in that way. I mean, there's always conferences where they're sending, like, as soon as you apply to one, they'll send you information every year saying, oh yeah, apply to this conference, apply to that conference. It's like, it's more money than I've probably been paid in 5 years just to go to these conferences every year and show your game, right? And yeah, beyond just the flying down there, there's just
You're spending money to go work.
yeah, and that's the thing is when I tell my wife, I'm like, yeah, we're going to Las Vegas. She's like, oh, that's gonna be fun. I'm like, yeah. There'll be fun
While I
times,
sleep.
but most of it I'll be working, like 14-hour days and lugging computers around and standing for 8 hours straight without going to the bathroom. And yeah, like it's cool. But you talk to people who do shows regularly, and they're like, yeah, I went to the airport, to the hotel, to the convention center, back, and then back to the airport.
I think I'd love that shit.
What I was going to say for marketing, if people want, advice, like we're not experts at it by any means, but a lot of people, we were in the same case too, kind of what Chris mentioned is a lot of times you feel you don't have time to be doing that. You're like, no, we just got to make this game. If it's awesome, it'll sell, which is totally not the case. You got to, if you're a student, if you're just starting off, get in the community, make indie friends, right? They'll help you introduce you to PR people, to other indies. Spread the word that way. But just take the time to do it. Take the time to put out assets, to talk about yourself, about your company, about your product. Be careful that you don't show, too much too soon, because people could get different expectations about what you're doing. Don't, overpromise, that kind of stuff. But become part of the community as far as just kind of everyday social stuff goes. And then the other part is if, getting close to launch, give yourself a lot of time. That's one of the mistakes that we kind of made. I felt we're okay. It's not the worst, but it would have been nice to finish the game 3 months ago and have it all packaged away, and then spend 3 months just doing PR and doing interviews and shows and all that, which is an ideal world of having that kind of time. But try and plan for that. You probably won't hit it, but at least try and plan for it.
Sounds like good advice.
Kind of, yeah.
I don't know. You guys have other questions?
I was just going to say on that note of having time, do you guys want to say the release date of the game? And
yeah, so
I don't think you guys have mentioned it yet.
Yeah, we're coming out May 12th, which is really soon. It's been a long time coming for us, and it's only been a couple of years, I guess. We're not some indie devs where they take like 15 years to make a game, I suppose, but which is always the worry, which is kind of what you guys are saying. If you don't have a publisher deadline, you can take forever. So I think I'm proud of that too, that it only took us 2 years. But yeah, May 12th, it'll be out on PS4, Steam, and in North America and Europe.
Beautiful. And what languages, like eFigs?
We did eFigs, Polish, Russian. Yeah, Chris knows here.
It's English, French, Italian, German, Spanish, Polish, Portuguese, Russian.
Wow, nice.
eFigs per.
Yeah. What was that?
eFigs per.
eFigs per.
Nice, I like that.
Yeah, that's a new standard. First time you heard it.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, hope
Congrats.
everybody checks it out, and I've been enjoying it. So yeah, definitely. Congrats.
Oh, do you have a price? I don't think you said the price.
Yeah, it's $11.99 US.
There we go.
Yeah,
Game Junk Nation, this is a call out.
It's a call.
Buy this fucking game.
Frank, what's the thing you worked on in the game that you're most proud of?
Oh, what did I work
Barrel
on?
roll.
Well, I don't even use barrel roll.
I remember
But
the
I was like,
day
this'll
he
be-
pitched it. He's like, this is gonna make this fucking game amazing. He's like, it's the best. It's gonna be the best.
I don't use it.
I definitely need to hear more about Frank's idea pitches for the game. But
Really?
yeah,
What am I most proud of? I don't know that. I don't think it's perfect, but the fact that we still use the camera from a year and a half ago, like that, like it's like shippable.
Yeah, that's probably pretty rare.
that's something.
These guys probably wish it was a little different, as do I.
No. But I think that was one of the strengths of our team too. Was like we would start working on something with Frank, and Frank is always very pragmatic and comes to you and he's like, okay, just give me the order of like what's the most important. I don't have a lot of time, basically. And so when we were working on the camera, it's like we got to a point where it's just like, yeah, there's things that we can improve upon, but it's like it's pretty good.
It's good enough.
There's no issues really that stop me from enjoying the game. And so we're just like, okay, let's move on to other stuff. And it was so good, we never had to really come back to it that much.
This guy's the camera master.
No, it was.
You're not going to say you love the UI elements, or
I didn't really work on the UI. I would say Sloan's did an amazing job with the UI, and then Unity comes out with like a UI system right after we launch. So I feel bad for Sloan that he puts like a ton of work to getting that whole system.
Just to
pretty
mention
tight.
other things that Sloan worked on that Unity replaced. He spent a lot of time doing a channel-based audio system, a mixer basically that you
Really?
can. Yeah, so anytime there's narration in the game, all the music and sound effects will blend down, and like the narration will come in, and it's a nice transition. And it has a whole queuing system where if there's multiple narrations, it'll queue them all up nicely. And then it was a huge headache to get that all working properly. And then Unity 5's like, oh yeah, we got a nice mixer system built in with like narration blending all built into it. It's like,
are you sure Unity just doesn't have like a direct connection to Sloan's computer? He's just like
they're
stealing it
just
all.
lifting things. This is brilliant.
That's one of the fine prints in the Unity contract you guys forgot to read.
This rip off is Scotsman.
Does Unity not have a roadmap of like features they're working on and stuff like that, or is that?
Yeah, but there's
Would've been
really
too late, though.
really loose with timetables. I think they
Yeah.
announced UI stuff in like when I was starting there. They were
I think that was a GDC, right?
yeah, and it took forever to happen. So
Yeah,
you can't rely on it.
that is true. All right, well, yeah, awesome. Everybody should definitely check out Lost Orbit, and we should talk about some games we've been playing aside from Lost Orbit. I guess we've got 2 reviews. I don't know, did you guys play either of the games we're talking about here?
Alex played Ori and the Blind Forest.
You know it.
All right, well maybe we should...
Just a quick interlude. Frank wanted to end in 10 minutes. So we have 10 minutes to fit everything else in.
Yeah, well,
It's not going to happen. We'll keep
We can-
going
we
for
can
you
fly
guys,
through
the
this
Game
stuff.
Junk audience.
Ori and the Blind Forest, let's talk about it. I didn't finish it. Frank did.
Oh yeah.
Alex did.
I did not.
I beat it
Alex said he
twice,
did not. So,
like a man.
little disclaimer for me. I would have actually finished it. I was seriously very close to finishing it, but I ran into some big issues with this game,
User
which,
error.
as far as I know, still have not been patched. So I just want to put a call out there so that if any of the devs are listening,
Well, I'll say Sean and I played it on Xbox One.
PC. Or
Andrew
Steam.
and Alex played it on Steam.
Yep.
And I will say, Sean,
yes.
this game crashed for me several times, especially in the menus and starting up. And
Well, I didn't have that. I did have. There was the one main problem that a lot of people were talking about, which is the resume thing on Xbox One.
oh yeah,
So if you turned on the system
Don't-
and tried to resume the game,
don't
it would
do
just
it.
flicker and
Yeah.
it would be weird, and you'd have to
really?
quit and start over
That's
again.
weird. That should be like an Xbox thing all by itself. Not
Yeah.
well, when
that
you're
game.
published by Microsoft, you can do whatever you want.
So yeah, everybody was busy complaining about that, and they patched that. But they didn't apparently patch the fact that sometimes your save games get lost, which is a pretty huge deal. Now, it happened to me twice, and I think what happens is you're playing the game, you're logged in, you have your profile and everything. If you pause the game and you leave the room, the Xbox loses, they can't see you or whatever, logs you out. And then when you come back in, it says, oh, who are you again? And it tries to verify who you are. But even if it does come back to the right profile, somehow in there, I think it loses your save game. Because
that
like I would
sucks.
play for 2 or 3 hours, and there's a checkpoint system in the game where you can, I guess more like a quick save system where you can save pretty much anywhere. And I would be progressing through the game like that. But then when I quit out to the menu, all of a sudden it's like from 3 hours ago.
Did you try grabbing a save from the cloud?
No, I don't know.
I should have told you that.
Rookie mistake.
Delete your save off your Xbox One,
Okay.
and then it'll look for it automatically if you have that enabled.
But then if it doesn't work, then I don't have any save
You're
game.
fucked anyway, no?
No, I'm still fairly far through the game. It's, I don't know, like I Googled it and there were a lot of people had this issue, so.
That really sucks. I had 0 problems with that game. Aside from, because I played on my home computer, which is kind of shitty. Anytime the owl came on screen, the frame rate just tanked. So I had to watch cinematics at work.
Well, I'll say this, because when I initially played it, was super frustrated for the first 2 hours until you get a lot of powers and. Well, I'm willing to admit that. Because,
I agree with that. I played through half the game and was frustrated for the majority. And you can watch the proof on our YouTube page.
but once you get it's basically the save mechanic and knowing when to save. And now I do. Like once you get the bar up and you understand how it works, and it's not like I was worried about conserving the other material, not knowing how often I need it. And once you get the hang of it, I'm fine with it. Like my second playthrough was fantastic.
So just before we go any further, 2D platformer, Metroid-ish. You get stuff, you get powers.
Very challenging.
Very challenging.
Super cute Metroid game.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
One of the most beautiful games ever. Yeah.
Agreed.
Now, we may disagree a little bit on that one. I think the visuals are stunning, but we're probably going to talk a little bit about Axiom Verge as well.
If this guy, I was just going to say this guy, but you stick to
Axiom
aesthetically.
Verge,
Just wasn't crazy about Ori. Like the story, the music.
You didn't like the music?
Just not my thing.
What?
Didn't like it.
It was like perfect.
I can't. I mean, it's one of those things where I feel stupid calling it out because it's a very subjective thing, and I do think the visuals are awesome. But you know, I play that, and then as soon as I pop on Axiom Verge, I'm like, "Yep, this is my game.
This is my jam. My rock jam.
I'm all about this."
Loving the pixels.
Yeah. So, but I think gameplay wise, it's much more Ori is much more polished than Axiom Verge. And I actually didn't like for a game that was being billed as really hard. I mean, it's hard, but I think that quick save thing, and maybe it is a little bit of knowing when to save and how often to save, but I save all the time, and it worked for me. Like I wasn't really that frustrated with the game. There's definitely some areas where you have a lot of instant deaths going on that gets frustrating.
Yeah, those were tough. Yeah.
And then there's those escape sequences, which can be
the first one
rough.
was the worst. I almost like raged on the water one, and then the rest were fine. The rest I didn't mind.
Yeah.
Was that the escaping the tree?
My God, like yeah.
You can watch the video proof of me getting real angry.
I was pretty yeah. I had to like sit forward for that one. That's when you know I'm frustrated.
So I was playing on PC, and I tried playing with a DualShock 4 with like the hack driver thing going on, and buttons would not map correctly, and I couldn't. There was no button to push pull objects. So a lot of the puzzles I just could not complete. I was okay with like X being Y and A being Z or whatever. X.
Buy a 360 controller.
I know, I should. I still don't know. Like, from me programming that system on Citizens, I don't know how it doesn't work. It's so straightforward. It's just reinterpreting the DirectX or direct input values. It should be straightforward. I don't know what's happening.
They use Unity as well. Unity does not handle controller stuff.
No, they
with
don't.
DS4.
I know. I had the same problem with you guys.
Yeah,
with Lost Orbit on PC.
Yeah, if you're playing Lost Orbit on PC, just play it the 360 or Xbox One controller.
Yeah, so I don't know why that doesn't work. Anyways, so I had to use keyboard and mouse, which makes this game very hand sore, like cramp wise, because the jump and everything.
I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Left, right, and like I think the only reason I was able to do it is because when I was at Drinkbox, I did the keyboard and mouse controls for Guacamelee, which is a very similar game. Yep. So I worked out a lot of these hand cramp issues on that during development of that game. So perhaps I had that advantage and still got super frustrated with this game. So if anyone's out there, like Alex said, buy a 360 controller if you're playing on the PC, because the keyboard controls are not great. It's not really so much that buttons are in a bad spot. It's just the amount of like left, right jumping and stuff you need to do is just your hand just can't really do it with keys that well.
Yeah, I can't play a side scroller on a mouse.
Yeah,
and
it's
keyboard.
really hard.
I can't do it. Yeah,
and like you guys were saying, I had a lot of troubles with a lot of the puzzles, probably because of the controls. But a lot of them I found, like the tree escape. Some of the other puzzles were just you'd forget to save, or the like sequences where you couldn't save were so long that you'd like almost get to the end and you'd die and you'd be way back at the beginning. Or if you forgot to save, you'd be even further back.
Yeah.
And I found that extremely frustrating, and I couldn't motivate myself to go back. I was really trying last night to motivate myself to finish the game before the show, and I went to bed instead. I said that. I can't do it.
There's two things in that game that made me just like it a little less. I absolutely love the game. Two things that I hated. One, there's an area in the game that just gets locked out after a certain point, and if you don't get some of the things in there, sucks for your achievements.
That's probably why Frank had to play it twice.
Well, and there's definite. You have to play it again.
What area is that?
There's the bottom left area.
Any temple.
Oh, well, the temples too, yeah.
Anything that led to a chase sequence,
Okay.
basically, you can't go back into.
But there's a straight up like whole map area too. In the bottom left, there's an area where you get chased, and eventually there's like an avalanche.
Oh, like the woods, like the misty woods.
The bottom left area. If you don't get there's a part of the map that I just didn't jump to get the 100% map achievement, and I just didn't jump into that one area, so it's still blacked out, and you just get locked out of that area once the little chase sequence happens, and that's it. You're screwed. And then once you get into the final temple, you can't ever exit it. You just have to beat the game and start over. So it's really weird design decisions. I don't know why for like a Metroid type of game. The point of it is to explore and go back.
Especially when you have those map percentages and everything that obviously want you to try to get those.
And achievements and all that, right? Yeah.
Well, when this game got released, I was like, it was my most anticipated game of the year. And I was so excited. And just the fact that immediately there was a frustration and it wasn't perfect. I was expecting a near perfect game.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's not, but it's very, very good.
It's still an indie game, right? It was still a fairly small team, even though Microsoft backed them. They obviously paid for a lot of their art. But, I mean, you could still tell, they made rookie mistakes with their game design and all that. And when you beat the game, it's actually not a very big team. I assume there's going to be like a huge amount of stuff, but I think they just probably outsourced a lot of their art, and that's it.
Yeah, I thought design-wise, some of the mechanics were weak at the beginning, like the wall jump until you can...
Once you get used to it.
But then I get another power that makes that wall jump obsolete.
Yeah.
But up until then, it sucks. And I think they're really not good. There's times where if you drop down, you don't have a chance to react.
You're done. Yeah.
There's not a... I can see what I'm doing rather than dying by trial and error. For a game like that, I think that's pretty important.
Yeah, you want to be able to react, right? Yeah.
I will say that I think my favorite level from, I played pretty much right up to, I think, the final temple. There's a level where they use some sort of gravity stuff, you know what I'm talking about, where you have to pick up the thing and then you can walk up the walls. And for me, figuring out that, in order to get from one side to the other, that you have to kind of fall off and then go across the screen. That was like a really awesome moment.
Yeah.
I like they don't change the controls, or like they're always stuck to you. So if you flip upside down, left is right and right is left, then like it flips it. So I actually ended up just lying upside down on the couch for those sections. Made it way easier.
Nice.
Life hack.
Yeah, you know it. Pro tip right there.
I'm trying to think of like I felt like there were some unique powers in it that I hadn't.
I think the whole
before.
Being able to latch on to any enemy and aim and dash with the stick.
Oh yeah.
I mean
that's pretty awesome.
To me, that's the revolutionary mechanic. Well, not revolutionary, but most unique mechanic and the most fun. And once you get that and can start chaining up levels, and
they probably played Rack and Rising.
It's very similar.
I think that mechanic of locking onto a player really simplified the controls too, because they didn't have to have an additional like aiming system built in. You always knew who you were targeting. I mean, there was probably some frustrating parts somewhere where maybe you wanted to target the guy on your left instead of the guy on your right or whatever. But overall, I think that simplified everything.
Yeah,
and just allowed you to focus on other things rather than aiming as well.
Yeah. So what Huck's talking about is instead of like a punching system like Guacamelee, it's just got orbs that target enemies.
You shoot out projectiles.
You're mashing that to it.
Instead of Metroid, where you have to actually aim what you're shooting at, it's just like a radius thing where if you hit the button and it's in range, it'll find it.
It'll target, which I actually like that quite a bit.
That's cool. And I think that was probably a big part of them being an indie studio. It's like, let's not try and do an aiming mechanic and like all that kind of stuff, like make a full Metroid game. Let's just simplify it, make some awesome art, and just make like a nice experience through this level and focus more on the platforming. Because there's no boss fights.
Yeah,
the fighting is super simple.
That's my biggest complaint. Not necessarily that there's no boss fights, which I thought would have helped, but there's really like 3 or 4 types of enemies that have different leveled up versions, and they're not all that interesting.
Yeah, I did find that the enemies got a little dull after a while. It's not that long of a game either. I mean,
No, which is nice too. I like that. The length of it was nice.
yeah. Well, how long do you guys think it took you to
I
finish?
think it took like 5 hours for something.
8 hours for me, I think.
Yeah, see, I think I had read 5 hours initially,
Yeah.
and by the time I got to the final level, I was probably in the 8-hour zone. But
Yeah, my Steam library said 5 hours played, and I was at 54%. Now, I was not collecting everything, so I don't know what exactly that percentage is, if it's just story progression or collectible. So I could have been
It's just
closer.
map, actually.
Yeah.
Just map?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So-
put it a little further.
question for you guys about the Metroid influenced games. Avoid the Metroidvania term for Frank. How do you feel about backtracking in these games? Because I know that's always been something that people who don't like these games, they complain about the backtracking. But to me, like, the backtracking is part of the fun, because you come back to an area and now you're way more powerful. You can get all the power ups. You can kill the enemies in like
I
one
love
shot.
it. It's always. I mean, I've always loved it. If it's a Metroid game or a Banjo-Kazooie kind of game, or any of those kind of, or even Zelda, right? Just going through an area and being like, hey, what the heck is that? I don't know what it is. It's a weird symbol or a crack in the wall. And then you have to remember it and you have to come back, and then you're like way more awesome coming back to that area with more powers. I always liked it.
Yeah, I like it too. I always wish there's hope there's a system that marks those areas for me.
Yeah.
I remember playing Metroid and being like, just give me a system where I can tag that. Because like, I could make a book or get a copy of the map and do it myself. It's just an exercise in remembering,
Right.
which I shouldn't even have to. Like, I'm not.
But in Ori, it's one of the abilities. you
Yeah,
can
as long as long as there's some system
Ori was good about
for
it.
marking that stuff, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I played Super Metroid just a little while before Ori. I picked it up for the Wii U, and I had forgotten how like that game just did not give a crap about you. Like, there was power-ups where you just had to shoot random bricks on the wall with like a random weapon or like a certain explosive. No hints, like no cracks, no like things pointing at it. It's like, yeah, go into every room and just shoot everything and hope there's a power-up there. There's
But
just no...
with Metroid, Super Metroid, they give you the X-ray vision later, which
And the power bomb.
Yeah.
Just
They
start
do,
laying
they do,
power bombs.
exactly.
is amazing. Oh, Metroid. That is the best
It's the
game
best.
ever, right?
Super Metroid.
Super Metroid, is there a better game?
No.
It's definitely up there.
How could this guy, the Super Metroid guy, not say that's the best game ever? It's the best game ever.
It's the best game ever for as far as like a
Pretty
side
close.
scroll.
Pretty close. I'm not. Yeah, I mean, like, strangely, the game I have the most nostalgia for, the Metroid game that really hooked me into the Metroid world, was Metroid 2 for Game Boy, which
nice.
nobody gives a shit about. Nobody seems to care about. But I feel like it did a lot of the firsts for the series that then continued on and made it what it is.
I played that game a lot, and I remember being so annoyed by the alien sound, or the Metroid
yeah, it's
sound
so
being
freaky,
so
man.
like in your face,
Oh, that's great.
annoying.
I really loved Fusion actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was awesome for the time. Metroid's one of those games you come back to. Like, I haven't played in a really long time, and you start off and you're like, yeah, it's a pretty like old school game, and then an hour into it, you're like, this is still amazing, like amazingly designed.
I think for the backtracking aspect, the thing that I don't like, now I didn't play all of Ori obviously, so I can't remember, and I played it a while ago, but I seem to remember that the backtracking sections, there didn't seem to be like a shortcut. In most of these games where there's backtracking, there's like a shortcut that'll take you through the area quickly that you can now access due to the new power you gained. And I don't recall that being in the Ori levels.
Or teleport stones, or some version of that.
Some fast travel or some way to quickly pass by. So it's more optional. There is the backtracking. You can go search for whatever you want. But I seem to remember in Ori that not really being the case, where you actually had to traverse quite a large area with no way to skip by with the power you just gained.
No, you just get a little faster at running and jumping and going up walls, so you can get through areas faster, but no
And being able to
shortcut.
dash from enemies, just you avoid them. You
just don't care about enemies.
Yeah, so I guess that is sort of like your fast
kinda
travel
like that,
mechanic. But
But I
seem to
agree.
recall-
I agree.
It was a little weak in that regard, whereas like other games do it much better, where you can literally like skip the whole thing just because of your new power is really making you feel awesome.
I totally thought the wells when I first started playing the game, those were going to be
Yeah, me too.
teleport
So-
stones because they looked like it. They had like a little floating rock.
They had
and
all the making of a teleport stone.
yeah,
Got cut. 11th hour cut.
yeah, absolutely. They had it working.
There was a bug in the
programmer's like, "It's
teleport.
in."
They're like, we don't really need this.
Yeah, screw it.
All right. Well, star ratings. Do you guys want to give
do
them
it.
or what?
Yeah, let's do it. Out of 5.
Well, I'm not giving it. I didn't finish the game.
Okay, I'll give it 4.5.
4.5. Absolutely. You.
Found it. Yeah.
I'll give it a 4.5.
So what's Axiom Verge?
I would give
a
it
5?
probably 3.5.
What's that?
What's Axiom Verge? A 5?
That's probably sitting at a 4 right now.
Yeah.
What?
You just said you hated
I'm saying
Ori.
aesthetically, there's something about
Oh, okay.
the visuals, the audio, all that stuff. It's just like I love that in Axiom Verge. Don't love it in Ori, but I think Ori is way more polished.
That's
So-
cool. We were stationed next to the Axiom Verge guys at PSX, just a couple booths down, and that was the first time I ever had heard of it or got to try it. And I have it on PS4. Haven't had a chance to play it yet, but it had an awesome. Just from the 10-15 minutes I spent with it, it had that Metroid vibe to it, which I think.
Yeah.
Like, Ori was very lighthearted and it had its own feel to it. Axiom Verge definitely feels like a Metroid game.
Well, the
which is
tile set
cool.
looks like
Yeah,
he
it's-
ripped it from.
They must have ripped it and just changed
colored it
up or something.
red
Yeah, but whatever. I mean, it's
instead
cool.
of blue.
Yeah.
He basically took it exactly and
Just
shaded
Control
it.
I in Photoshop, inverted the colors.
Let's face it, originality kind of overrated. But I don't know. There's some cool weapons in it. I'll say that much. Do you want to jump into the order first of all?
Yeah, sure.
Do it.
Frank is just dying to talk about this game.
Well, I think it's a very interesting game.
Very,
Very interesting.
very.
So Frank and Huck City both finished it.
Yes.
I played 2 hours, maybe something like that.
Now, I will say this. I really enjoyed the game. I understand, and this is my dilemma. I really enjoyed it, and I tend to like short games. And but in this game, I understand people's issues with value.
Right.
In the sense that I really have no reason to replay this game. But I really enjoyed my initial playthrough. But also, there's a lot of cutscenes, but they're really highly polished cutscenes. But they're not, I don't remember any characters' names. I don't remember the cutscenes. So when I was playing the game, I loved it. And I thought the polish level was high. And another reason why I think it's interesting is right now the landscape of games is games get absolutely slaughtered for not working and not being polished and having issues. And this game's unplayable. Why am I paying $60 for a game that crashes or just the face disappears in a game? And I find the order really interesting because it's a next-gen experience. It's short. But I didn't have it is so polished, it's ridiculous.
There's a reason for that, obviously.
No, I don't think so. And the reason why it's short, it's weird to me because I think this game could have easily been extended by 4 hours, 3 hours, by just having random combat rooms like Uncharted would. You get this one gun that's amazing. Do you know which gun I'm talking about? The one where you shoot the combustible stuff in the air and then you light it on fire and it sets off a chain reaction.
Yeah, the thermite gun.
Yeah, the thermite gun. You use that gun twice in the game.
You can find it around other places.
I know, but there's not a lot of action in the game. I think they could have just... One of the complaints with Uncharted is the enemies are all the same. It's just an enemy factory.
Frank, just to stop you, can you just move your beer bottle there? You are like inches away from knocking that shit out.
I'm fired up. Anyway, thank you.
I actually meant the other one by your other hand.
Oh, well. Anyway, I would love to play, what are the horde modes, something like that, for this game. If that existed, I think I'd play it a ton.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really like this game as well, but it had serious pacing issues.
Yeah.
Where, like, the gameplay it did have, I really enjoyed. And I've heard people complain that there's, like, the weapons aren't that unique. You know, I didn't really care about that. I felt like they suited the era, like, the game it was made. I felt they all suited the game. I felt they all played well.
I thought the science weapons were super unique.
Yeah.
That was my favorite thing.
Yeah, I don't really get that complaint. The cutscenes are long, but like you said, super polished. I enjoyed watching them. But it was just the gameplay was too infrequent.
Yeah.
It's just too infrequent. And if they like you were saying, I don't think if they padded it, it would have made it a better experience. But the backstory that this game implies, it doesn't even really explicitly beat you over the head with the backstory. That I guess the backstory is that these guys are Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah, it's pretty. I actually like it.
Modern
when you break
in
it
like
down.
the 1886.
Well, it's
London.
just continued and continued through the.
Yeah,
ages.
it's like as if King Arthur's Round Table just continued, and they found the Holy Grail, and they can now live forever as long as they keep kind of drinking from the Holy Grail, right? So the lore behind the world is really cool, I think, and really interesting, and they can definitely do a lot.
And the look to the characters is awesome too, and the costuming,
Yeah.
and everything. But the characters themselves aren't that interesting.
Yeah, they're pretty. Even like the main character, Galahad, I think, or whoever it was.
That's a bad sign when we're not quite
I had
sure
trouble
about the
sort
new
of
characters.
Well, I had trouble sort of like understanding all his motivations, even as they were trying to tell the story. Not that I'm really good at picking that stuff up, anyways. But overall, like you said, gorgeous game. Definitely next gen. I felt like a lot of the cutscenes they did probably could have been replaced with gameplay if they so chose. There's like a quick time event system that is pretty good. It's not great.
It is what it is.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like you were saying, it's kind of weird. I enjoyed it, but I also can't really remember it that well.
Yeah, some ballsy decisions literally in this game. Like not frequent, but male nudity, which is kind of a
Now
first.
I'm disappointed I didn't keep playing.
Yeah, there
Which,
you go.
I mean,
Sold.
that might be a first that I can remember.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you remember any
God of War doesn't
cock
have
and ball
male,
games?
male nudity?
I was just gonna maybe you want to just tell everybody what your hanging dong policy is when it comes to movies, and see if
it's not
if that
true.
applies to games.
It's not true anymore. There was a time, probably up until the.
Hang on a sec. It was only like 5 months ago that we talked about this, and you still thought the policy was in place. So
No.
What happened since then?
No.
What happened to you, Frank?
Not at all. This policy ended quite a while ago, but it always was a policy, definitely through high school and early university, that if a movie had male nudity, it was probably a sign it was a good movie.
yeah.
And
Okay, now you can't just make the statement.
now I would say
Okay,
up until
tell us why. Tell us why that makes it a good movie, or why that's a sign.
doesn't.
Why that's a sign that it's a good movie.
I don't even remember what I said.
I don't remember.
I would go with that argument and just say that male nudity is not probably going to sell a movie to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a ballsy decision.
Exactly.
So-
Yeah.
Exactly. That was the pitch that you gave to me. Was basically if you put a dick in your movie, it had
don't
better
remember.
be really good.
I
Right?
don't remember talking
You
about
don't remember this? You were so adamant about it.
That's me. I say shit. I don't,
Well, I'm calling you out.
no. I fully. I'm sure I said that. I'm just saying I say stuff and I don't remember I said it. I just. But that was definitely you. My friends would attest to this too. We all were on the same page with that. And then
Was that before the Apatow movies started including?
well before that.
They all had to have a cock shot in
We're
there
talking
somewhere.
like, when you're high, Boogie Nights, Seven, many more.
Sure.
The movies we liked when we were in high school.
Yeah.
Quite a few had a nice big pee-pee in there. Anyway, the order, I don't know. I would love if they added some
Dong.
horde. No, plenty of dong. Horde modes, some other stuff to just experiment with the weapons. I think I'd revisit it. At this point, I got my single serving experience.
Yeah.
I'm okay. What's so funny?
I'm still thinking about dicks. Sorry.
And I enjoyed it, but I do understand.
Single serving experience? Is that why you're laughing?
He got his single serving experience and he enjoyed it.
What I find is I find myself being a bit of a hypocrite because I rented the game.
Ooh, that never happens.
It's all right. I libraried the game.
And it was because I played it pretty late in its life cycle, and it was still $70 digitally. But
Not that late. It only came out a couple months ago.
well, still, I still knew it was going to be $30 or $40, and it is now in stores anytime now, and I couldn't justify paying the full price now. I will buy it if it goes cheaper digitally, though.
Just buy the order too. I'm sure they're going to make one.
Well, it'll be interesting. I don't know if they will.
I'd be curious what the sales are on that.
I'm surprised it hasn't. I think in the near future that might be a PlayStation Plus game.
Probably, yeah. I can see that coming.
Because it's a game, I think, if people did play it that didn't want to pay the full amount, they'd
probably like it.
They'd feel a huge value for PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
And it would drum up interest for a sequel, which...
Yeah. I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
I think it's really getting slammed for the wrong reasons. Like the length, like you said, I think it's fine. I think it's a perfect amount for that game, like the story they told in that period. But yeah, it's just the gameplay was so intermittent. If they just had a little more or even stretched out the sequences a little longer. Really, I didn't have any frustration with the combat except in some of the werewolf hunting arenas where they kind of like come out of nowhere from like dark corners and I was like, where, like, it was just, you almost had to like back yourself into a corner.
That's all
so that you had a better view standpoint and then just kind of aim at the spawn points where you know
where
that they're coming from.
Totally. That aspect, but there's not a lot of that, and they probably
I think there's only 2 or 3 of those in the game. So,
but I would say this game is a reskinned Uncharted with Last of Us polish, taking all the polish techniques from that game.
I'll jump in and say I don't agree with that. I think
what I'm talking about interface specifically, like
interface.
Collectibles, everything's embedded in the game. It's like you don't go to a menu screen, you pick stuff up and look at it.
Oh, they definitely took Last of Us type stuff from that.
And the button cues are
I didn't
totally
understand that whole system. Maybe it's actually useful later in the game, but it's like you can pick items up and move the thumbstick to look at them, and it's like, why do I care? Like, this is where, I played it for like 2 hours, 3 hours. I mean, it's like the first big battle scene, and I died over and over again.
You died?
Get past it.
How did you die?
Last of Us, or no, we're talking about the order.
The order. Okay.
How the hell did you die?
I don't know. Well, we'll take this offline.
He's not good at games.
Seriously, like I was looking up tips on how to beat that level, and a lot of people were like, "Yeah, this is a really hard level in this game." But like, it's like the first actual time you're really challenged. I found. But up to that point,
what did you play on?
Normal. Up to that point, I was walking around, like, his default walk speed is so slow.
Agreed.
And it's so frustrating. And then, like, it was that or cutscenes. And I, got to shoot a gun, like, twice.
But to be fair, those default walk speed issues are present in Last of Us and Uncharted.
Yeah, I think it just, because there's so many sequences where people are talking, so I guess the story's going on, so you're being forced to walk. Especially at the beginning of this game, it just felt like, when am I going to get to the action, really?
Well, and that's like the pacing issues we were kind of bringing up. There's just it's just, they're all over the game, the pacing issues.
Yeah. But I didn't think, I thought the setting was kind of interesting, but the actual cutscenes and all that stuff,
agreed.
Not like the acting and everything, not that great.
It's just missing a character. Like when you think of Uncharted and Drake and Sully and Elena and like you remember the characters and they have cool personalities.
Yeah, Sully's the best.
Yeah, they just don't have that. If everything else is there except for the heart of those characters. And when you're telling a game that's based on story primarily, you have to have that and cinematics.
Well, I must say I remember the French womanizer and
I don't remember his name.
Well, I don't either.
You figured they would have taken more cues from Naughty Dog.
I know Tesla
changes,
just because it's Nikolai Tesla.
Yeah. Well, his name, that French guy's name changes though, because he's like his name and then he becomes a knight.
Big spoiler.
Big spoiler.
The Order.
Not really.
No.
There goes an hour and a half of my life.
Only one other thing that I wanted to mention, which is that if I remember correctly, this game has the BioShock audio tape kind of system.
Yeah, but you can't play them while you're walking around.
Right, so what's the point?
I agree.
That sucks.
I totally agree.
The whole point of those audio tapes is that it's cool story development while you're walking around doing other stuff, and they make you sit there on
the
a
mark
menu
on that one.
Big time.
Brutal.
Dum-dums.
Especially with such pretty art, you figured like, just walk around at least, go explore and listen, right?
Yeah.
Stroke it a bit.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I can't say much else. But I kind of was feeling why all the negative reviews were, and it's not about the length for me because I'm cool with a short game. But
Like some short and stubby, like a can of tuna.
So you guys gonna offer up some star ratings or what?
I'm leaning towards 4.5.
What?
Ooh. I'll go just 4.
But I'll give it a 4.
I haven't played it, but I'm going to give it a 5 on the art. They did an art dump on Polycount a few weeks ago, and it's the best video game art ever.
Oh yeah, I bet those models are insane.
I'm not super crazy about the post-process on the game, like the actual look. It took me a while to get used to, and even by the end,
Well, they had a little graininess, right?
yeah, and I would play something else and come back to it, and I'm like, that's kind of ugly. I don't know.
I thought they did, just to add a little bit to, they do...
It's no Axiom Verge.
That's true, it's not.
They did a lot of, from what I recall, a lot of subtle environment storytelling too, which might be overlooked by a lot of people, but they do a lot of like, the body is placed in like this way with like, you can walk up to it and see like the scratches on its body or whatever, like, it's more subtle, and I think that's probably getting missed from people just wanting to... a 1,000 it.
Yeah, it was definitely missed by me.
Or whatever. Trophy. Platinum trophy.
Well, talking about pacing then, it's also bad pacing in the collectibles. Some levels have 17, and then 10 have none.
Nothing
so
for 3 chapters.
So if you didn't look at a guide to find those...
And I didn't.
And I'd be combing you'd be combing every area and find nothing. You're like, I must have missed stuff. Nope, there was just none.
Yeah.
Like, there's no pacing to the collectibles whatsoever.
Yeah.
So stupid.
All right, so other stuff we played. You haven't really talked in a while there. Chris, you want to
Kind of put me on the
plug
spot.
anything?
All right. Played Hotline Miami 2 not too long ago. Any of you guys play that?
No.
I played the first intro part. That's all I got to, but I played the first game and I liked it a lot.
Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know why I brought that up. I don't have a lot to say about Hotline Miami 2. I don't know. It was good. It felt like more of the same. Playing through it, I don't know. It's a mean thing to say, I guess, but I like playing through it. I was like, I don't know why it took so long to get a sequel out, because like they did some interesting things. It's definitely like, I don't know if it's bigger, but it's definitely broader than the previous ones, where there's just like more characters, more backstories. They try and like wrap everything together, but it felt kind of like more of the same. I did feel like some of the charm of being able to like run through in the first game, like run through a level and kill everybody in this like weird kind of music, like synchronized music orgy of death, was kind of lost because of enemies that would fire from off screen, or like too much use of things like windows, where you just like walk down a hallway and people would see you from across the game and come running after you. There was like a lot of combination of like, oh, this enemy can only be killed by melee weapons. This enemy can only be killed by like a heavy shotgun, or like a lot of shots from a regular gun. And because there's no real inventory in the game, like you'd get caught in these sequences where it's like, okay, both of these guys are coming at me at once. I have to find a melee weapon, kill this guy, pick up a gun, kill the other guy before they hit me with their deadly fist of doom. Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing I want to talk about most is the ending, which we can't really talk about without spoiling the whole game. So, yeah, I don't know. What else have we been playing? I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was a solid game. But yeah, I don't know. It's another one of those situations too, where it's just like, the first one was such an experience that it's like, how can you make something that amazes people like to the next level after they've been, their expectations are so built up from the first title. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I liked it. I don't know. What else have we been playing? Yeah, we've been playing a lot of... we were actually next to these guys at PlayStation Experience, the You Don't Know Jack. What's the company's called? Jackbox?
Yeah, we're going to be playing that tonight.
Oh, yeah. It's awesome. So I just got the Jackbox.
Yeah, Drawsome is the best game ever.
Drawsome, Drawful, yeah.
Oh, Drawful. I've been saying it wrong the whole goddamn time.
It comes with Fibbage, Lyswatter, Wordspud, which is kind of the dud of the pack.
I was going to say word dud, but
and then You Don't Know Jack 2015.
yeah, it's okay. I just basically me and my friends who are not big gamers,
Yeah.
we bounce between Drawful and Fibbage. Like, all
Fibbage
the
is
time.
pretty sweet, especially if you have people who suck at drawing. It's nice to give them like equal opportunity by playing some Fibbage, but
But the thing that's good about Drawful is even if you suck at drawing, the game's still fun.
Yeah.
Because it's how people interpret it.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like if we played Drawful, there may be a little bit of an advantage given to the artists over
No,
the programmers.
not,
you have-
not at all.
if you have a tablet with a stylus, there's a bit of an
yeah,
advantage.
trust me.
But the real
the
art of
game is
that game,
perfect. The game is fucking
the real art of that game is drawing something that is completely incomprehensible until you see the correct title for it. Yeah. Because then so if you're not familiar with the game, basically each player takes a turn drawing a title that they're given on their phone, and then it's put up in front of all the players, and all the players come up with a fake title for the drawing, and then everybody has to guess what's the correct drawing. You get points for people guessing your title if it's a fake title, and if you drew it, you get points for people guessing the correct title. So if you can draw something that doesn't make any sense until the point where they see the correct title, that's the easiest way to make points, in my experience. But yeah, that game's great.
I'm definitely intrigued.
And the nice thing is, talking to those guys, what they were saying was they were sick of going to parties and seeing people just buried in their phones and not really talking to each other. And so they tried to come up with a way to allow people to be buried in their phones and still talking to all the people.
This is genius. And we talked about this a bit at Creative Bites as well, and you guys just mentioned it. I've always kind of been a proponent that good games do sell. Like, well, maybe not good games. Great games always sell. Good games need to, like, inform people about them and have good word of mouth. But this is a game that no one talks about, and I don't understand why, because even for casual gamers, it would be it's the perfect party game.
Yeah.
I just, and it's cheap too. It's not expensive.
No, for the amount of games that you get, I think it was like $26 or something like that on Steam.
I got it on sale for 13 or 14 for all those.
It's a great pack to have.
I could
Definitely.
it's something you could play with your family.
And the way that they did it too, like they could have made an app, and then you may have had potential compatibility issues.
Yeah.
But the way they do is you just go to a website, you type in a code based like what pops up on your TV, and everybody can just play as long as they have a web browser they can play.
It's called Jackbox. That's the name of the game.
It's a collection.
Yeah.
Drawful's the drawing game.
My only complaint about the game is in some of the games, Drawful is one of them. You can get dropped, and then there's no way to rejoin. Basically,
Usually you can if you have the code, but we have had cases where
you've been able to rejoin with the code.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been able to rejoin with the code.
We always do. It's just one time someone got dropped completely. Could be an Android issue. I'm just gonna say. A lot of iPhones in this house.
All right, cool. Looking forward to playing that.
It's sweet.
Yeah, it really is.
All right, anything else for you, Alex?
I've been playing a crap ton of games. I'm going to leave the last one because I know Frank's going to hate me. Whoa. Well, you'll see. So I've been playing Sticker Star on the DS, which is pretty sweet. Just started Dragon Age Inquisition, and by started was a few days ago, and I'm 10 hours in. It's awesome. Doing that, did Hotline Miami 2 as well. Been playing Hyrule Warriors with my girlfriend, which would probably be kind of boring on my own, but it's kind of a fun co-op game. And then what I just beat, which I really enjoyed, is Brothers.
Why would I give you crap?
Because you said you hated it.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you said you hated it. You said it was
I don't
awful.
remember ever
Really?
saying
Oh,
that.
I thought you really didn't like it.
Seems like a game.
Frank, do you
would
remember
hate.
earlier when you said sometimes you say things dramatically and you don't remember that you said them?
I know.
Is this one of those cases?
No, the only game I said I know for a fact that I hated was Gone Home. and it,
Oh, that's fair though.
but for I think with Brothers, the only discussion I remember having recently was that the IP got bought.
Yeah, I thought
And
you
I was
really
like-
didn't like it. You were surprised that it
No.
was that much money because you thought it was a shitty game.
No, no, it was. I thought it was a really good move by then because I didn't know how it functioned as an IP necessarily, and I
guess,
think
yeah.
like they kind of did what they could do. I didn't beat it. I didn't beat it. I'm not going to say I didn't give it a fair shake, but
Oh, that's fair.
It's only like 3 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
I
really
only
short.
started
Yeah.
playing it because it was making Game of the Year lists, and I thought I played enough to know it wasn't for me.
It's
but
not Game of the Year.
I would like to revisit it though. I certainly didn't hate it. I don't know if I said that or
Ah, fair enough. Maybe I misinterpreted
It
your
could be.
rage. But yeah, I really liked it. It was they missed the mark on some of the like they could have made it a lot more heartwarming with just better music and a little bit more atmosphere in there. It was a little stale, but it was really fun. And they had the best achievements I've ever seen in a game. There's no like collect 100 of anything. It wasn't necessarily story. They were all little extra things you had to do in the game. Like my favorite one, which is a really early one, and they show in the trailers. There's 5 bunnies and a fireplace or a fire pit that's out, and all the bunnies are black except for one of them. And you control 2 different brothers with 2 different joysticks on the same controller. And the little brother, he picks up all the bunnies by their ears. If you walk up and hit A, if you pick up the white bunny and throw him in the fire, he turns black. And you get an achievement for making them all part of the same like family. And
Ooh, racist. I hate this game. Racist.
it's good racism, made them all equal. No, it was, and so all their achievements are just little things. Like there's one where you have to steal a ball from a little girl and throw it away, and you just get like you have to be a jackass, and it's awesome. You just have to like do little extra things to get achievements. It was kind of
Isn't
fun.
one like sit on all the benches in the world?
Something like that. Yeah. You got to enjoy and all that. Yeah. But that's really cool. I think I'm playing something else too, but I don't remember. Yeah, Hotline Miami was good too. I agree with Chris. I actually felt with Hotline they probably shouldn't have made a sequel. Even though I was really excited for it, playing it, I'm like, it would have been better, like, to just make one and just be like, that was an amazing experience, and we'll never make one again.
Yeah, from playing 2, I think one of the questions that arose from that was just like, I just don't know what they're gonna make next. Like, I feel like anything they make now is just gonna be like have that exact same feel and that exact same like, yeah, I don't know, it's weird.
It is. I felt like there's a lot of games like that. Like if they ever made like a Journey 2, I'd be like, why? No, that game's perfect. Leave it.
It's like when they wanted to make Forrest Gump 2.
Forrest Gump's perfect.
Yeah, I would watch it, but I would
they
feel
actually-
bad watching it the whole time.
Didn't they actually write the book that's the sequel, though?
Did they really?
I think the sequel exists in book form. I could be wrong, but I feel like it
Huh.
is.
Morris Gump.
I have to take a trip to the library.
Oh, library.
My
That's
favorite.
territory.
Library, you hang out with Huck.
Okay, I'll be really quick. Played Fast and Furious 7 Presents Forza Horizon. Just a nice, easy thou on achievements and
I just want to ask you.
revisiting Forza.
Just want to ask you real quick if you've looked at Project Cars at all.
No.
Okay,
I did just download Drive Club and played 2 seconds of it.
that's it.
All right. Was replaying Devil May Cry, like the new edition. Was really enjoying that. About halfway through.
The definitive edition, I
Yes,
believe?
played 5 seconds of Mortal Kombat. Need to play some more. Maybe we should do some fatalities tonight.
Did you buy any fatality coins?
No. As I was saying, finally played Shovel Knight. Love it. It's the best. It is so good. Were you say you were struggling with the difficulty a bit, or
Yeah,
Some of the
but-
checkpoints, I think, right?
Yeah, but it was one of those things where, you know, you think it's hard and kind of unfair, but then when you actually have to, you know, if you put the game down, you come back to that level like a day later, all of a sudden,
yeah?
it's no problem.
I don't know why it didn't grab me on Wii U, but I'm loving it now. And that's all I'll really say. And then I'll end with Bloodborne.
Ooh,
I've tried every From Software game trying to get into it, and it never happening. But Bloodborne, I haven't played it in a while, but the first few days it came out, I played it almost every night, and I need to get back into it. I'm finally, I think it could be how good looking the game is, and I think mostly that it's more offensive based than Demon's Souls, which I really enjoy.
I played Bloodborne as well, but could not get into it. I found it extremely difficult in that first like real area you get to, and I couldn't get through it. Now, I got into Dark Souls and was a shield guy all the way, so that's probably why I'm having issues. I don't fault the game for it. I think I just wasn't ready for it and didn't have the patience for it. I definitely would go back to Dark Souls before I go back to Bloodborne.
What's the difference between Bloodborne and those other games?
Well, Bloodborne, it's based in some gothic village that you're killing or hunting vampire or just creatures. It's a little bit more like Demon's Souls. I don't know. I don't know the diffence. There's not a huge difference other than the look.
Gameplay wise, in Dark Souls you can have a shield, and in Bloodborne you can't. I guess you can, right? But it's and it's. I think in Bloodborne it's a little. You can move a little quicker. You can dodge a little quicker.
Must have been an awesome publisher pitch. It's like this game, but no shields.
I think I remember hearing you can get one shield, but it's like the weakest piece of shit weapon, and so it breaks like as soon as it's hit. As like a joke, I think, to say "fuck you, you shield users." I think that's really the main. You have like two weapons, right? You have one like your main, and then a secondary weapon or something. Yeah, and
there's a whole shooting system to get enemies in vulnerable states with the pistol or whatever.
Oh, really? And I never even got to that point.
I suck at it. I only learned from watching videos.
Huh. Yeah, see. I did not capture anything I was supposed to about that game. I played Drive Club as well. I was enjoying the racing. I learned just a few days ago that they actually... So I borrowed it from the library just like last week.
A lot of patches.
Yeah, it was like 13 gigs of patches or something. It took like 20-something hours to download the patch for me.
And they finally added the weather system, which is the coolest.
Yeah, I was like, this game is fucking cool. I don't know, like the weather looked good. Like the so much time of day stuff with the shadows like playing on the race course and stuff. And I really like the drifting, and I found out that they literally like rewrote the entire drifting system in one of the patches they just recently put out. Wow. So apparently now it's fun, whereas before it wasn't. So maybe that's why I enjoyed it so much. So if anyone likes racing games on PS4 and wants to go back to Drive Club, I would say go do it now. But I think it's just, I don't know if I'm over the hump of racing games, but I couldn't really force myself to go back. It was kind of just.
Did you try the Fast and Furious racing game?
No, I did not. I don't have an X-Bone. But I found that it was just everything was the same. I didn't try any online. I tried to get into Solid Blake's Drive Club team or whatever club.
Right.
But he didn't accept me into his team
Ouch.
in time. Yeah, so Blake, you're in the doghouse, bud.
Piece of shit.
So I didn't try any of the online. I didn't bother like creating my own club or anything. I have a feeling that's like a different game altogether. But the single player racing experience, I enjoyed the races, but there wasn't enough like rewarding in between races to make me want to just keep progressing and doing single races. It was all pretty much the same. The courses were nice, but I don't know. I don't enjoy the nuances between racing. And I found my old tactic of crash into the side of the car on the turn and then use that to get ahead works fabulously in this game. So the cars look awesome when they're damaged, but there's really no like momentum change when you hammer into someone or hammer into a wall. So there are like certain physics things I would expect maybe in this game, but I guess they're going for more arcadey than simulation. I played Dying Light. I was really enjoying that game. It's like from the Dead Island people. And it almost reminded me of Dead Rising 3, except first person perspective. I really enjoyed it. I played maybe 3-4 hours of it, and there were some really tense moments with, the zombies coming after you and stuff. So I would recommend that to anyone who likes Dead Rising 3 or any sort of zombie type game. I think it's kind of flying under the radar, which is kind of a shame actually, because I think it's better than the lack of exposure it has right now. I played Evolve. I think, Sean, you talked about it last show a bit.
Yeah,
and
barely played it at all, but
I also barely played it. I kind of, the tutorial just went for way too long, and I just had to quit halfway through and gave up on it.
I played I got onto the beta for like 2 days before it closed or something like that, and I played a few matches while I was on it, but it just like, I don't know, it seems like it's gotten some pretty good user feedback, but when I was playing it, I felt like I was honestly just running around chasing the monster constantly.
I didn't even get to that part. I was only the monster for the tutorial.
Oh, okay. How was that?
It was fun, but like I wasn't drawn to the game to keep playing.
Yeah. No,
So,
I felt the same way. It's a shame because it was that idea for a game was one that I had always wanted to make.
Yeah.
Like kind of like an asymmetrical team of guys versus, I mean, it came from Ghostbusters for me, basically. It was like Ghostbusters versus Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was like a cool idea for a fight, right? So, yeah.
I just want a new Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
Make it
It's
happen.
from those, it's from like
I know
a
it's-
spin-off team, right, of that game?
Yeah, why isn't this happening?
It's because Valve's rolling all their Steam money. They don't need to make
Why
it.
Valve
didn't I-
doesn't make games anymore.
They just roll in money. They're
They
like
make
Scrooge
money.
McDuck. Olli Olli 2 came out on PS Plus. I played that a bit. I never played the first one. I enjoyed it a bit, but again, I don't know. I think I'm just in a big gaming slump. I couldn't really get into it. Counterspy came out as well, which I actually enjoyed quite a bit. I think you played that.
yeah,
right,
I played
Sean?
a bit of it.
I played a little too.
It was weird because when I loaded it up, I was kind of looking forward to it because, I dig the spy thing. But I thought it was
Artsy.
more of a side scroller. And then you get into the game and, it is, but then you have these like
3D
points where
shooting
you-
elements.
Yeah, you hide behind things and then you're shooting more in 3D. I guess it's more of like a 2.5D game. But, so like my first time playing through a level, I was like, that's it? That's all there is to this game? But then I found myself coming back to it for the next few days and
Yeah.
kind of getting into it. And it's, all the levels are randomly generated. So maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to jump in, I think, and I found that it was a little tricky to hide from people sometimes, and then when you get spotted, there's like this countdown clock that starts, and you need to like run to the end, basically. And I found like that mechanic just kind of ruined the game for me almost, because I was no longer trying to solve the puzzle. I was just trying to sprint to the end. But it was,
I ended up
still
doing that a
enjoy
lot,
the game. Yeah. I still enjoy it, but I think that didn't really work for me as well. I don't know what did you think about that, Alex?
I only played a little bit. I was kind of disappointed that it was a randomly generated game. I thought it was more of a like bigger side scroller. But like I said, I really haven't had enough in there to kind of experience what the real game's like. The mechanics were kind of cool. I was kind of surprised by the 2.5D, 3D kind of thing as well. Art's really awesome. That was kind of the first thing that drew me in to even wanting to try the game. Yeah, the spyness and the kind of like old timey looking kind of stuff was awesome. But
Cold War.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see how deep it gets.
Kind of like on the topic of the randomly generated stuff, I do kind of wish there was more of a story there.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, you're just trying to keep playing through levels so that you can build up. Like you're trying to get launch
Blueprints
plans
stuff,
or something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Disarm the weapons, I think, is the thing.
Something like that, yeah.
I also finished Walking Dead Season 2.
Oh, nice.
I really
spoilers.
thought it was like just a story, a walking simulator. They really removed a lot of the impactful story beats that the first one had, I felt.
Oh, really?
And there was really not much exploration at all. It was really like linear paths between cutscenes.
Oh.
I had heard, I think at the end of last show, I'd played the first 2 chapters, and I had heard that it got better, and I really didn't find it got much better. I thought it kind of just stayed the same sort of pace, and I don't know. I like the first season much better than the second season.
Season 1 was awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was just different team working on it, but they definitely missed more of the adventure aspect of the game. And searching around, I felt like there was very few puzzles. I don't know, just kind of disappointing overall. I would not give it such a high. It seems to have a pretty high like scores all around, but
That's too bad.
Yeah, I wouldn't really rank it that high. I just picked up Suikoden 2
Nice.
on the PSN sale, so I'm playing that.
I was hoping there was a
Everybody's
Sudoku
been
game.
talking about it.
Yeah,
You
little
gotta play it.
PlayStation 1 game. I've been loving that.
Yeah. I've never played them.
I played a lot of 3,
Oh yeah.
and then I played a little of 2, and so now I'm going to dive into it. I got
Nice.
playing on the Vita. Love that thing. I played a little bit of Final Fantasy Type 0. It was an interesting take on a Final Fantasy game. I didn't play that much, but there's a lot of like character swapping, and I was liking sort of the character roles they kind of had, but I didn't get too far into it. And then I went out to Calgary actually and visited my nephews, and they are the Minecraft generation. So I was introduced to Minecraft for my first time. And let me tell you, I sat down at the computer. I said, okay, teach me Minecraft. And literally within 2 minutes, he had pushed me aside and was just playing it himself. But these kids, their routine was kind of amazing to me because they'd wake up in the morning. This is very enlightening for me. They wake up in the morning, put on YouTube, watch Let's Play Minecraft guys for maybe the first hour of their day. And then they would go and play Minecraft online for the next like 8 hours of their day. And then after dinner, they would watch more Minecraft YouTubers.
That's what my nephews like too. It's either Minecraft,
Yeah.
Call of Duty, or GTA.
And I
That's
was
it.
looking at the play counts of these guys who literally just like play the game and talk stupidly. And they had like 18, 19 million views. I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah.
That these people are literally making millions of dollars making these stupid little videos. I mean, good for them, but I can't believe there's this many kids that watch this crap. It was amazing to me.
It's the numbers on Let's Play videos, and
Yeah.
Especially for Minecraft, it's ridiculous.
And they're not even
Well,
like long videos. It's not like they're playing the whole game. It's literally like they have a little test room and they're like showing one enemy or something. It's like a 4 or 5 minute video and it has like millions and millions of views.
Oh yeah, my nephew spent like a week making a cube, just like a world-sized cube. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm and my friend are making a cube." And that was it. And that's all they do. And it took like 8 hours a day. They're just making
It's the new
cube.
Lego.
Yeah,
It's the new Lego, digital Lego. It's insane.
I never made a cube in Lego.
You didn't?
You gotta get creative.
It's creative to make a cube out of all your pieces and make it perfect.
Oh yeah, that's true.
No, I never did that.
Then the last thing I played, Skylanders Swap Force. I was introduced to that as well.
You want to buy some figures?
No, I don't. I don't have the little cardboard box that you put them into or whatever. Yeah. But that was interesting to see. So my nephew's 4, and he was right into swapping out the characters based on the powers and who we were fighting. He knew everything, and I don't know. Those, I believe they're pretty expensive per character, right? Aren't they like $10 or something per guy?
At least.
So it's an expensive game.
If you buy them used, they're pretty cheap.
Yeah,
You
but
can
I
get
mean,
$2 or $3.
the little box he had was probably like a 6x6. So there's like, I don't know how many there are, but there's at least 36 guys you can buy, I think. And the game itself was kind of interesting, how you just pop them on and it immediately pops them into the game and you're playing around with their different stats. And I think you're leveling up like that actual character, right? The guy that the figure you have.
Yeah, it stores it in the figure.
In the figure. So it's kind of neat. I know I would not buy it, but I can understand why it's sort of taken off and people like it. And Frank has one right here.
Tree Rex right here.
Oh, I didn't play with Tree Rex. He didn't have him. He only had about 6 guys we were playing around with, but it was pretty fun. And that's it for me.
Nice.
Cool. Well, I don't have too much else to add. To go back to Axiom Verge, played maybe 4 hours, maybe 5 hours, somewhere around there.
It's pretty good for me.
I mean, the whole thing is Nintendo's not making 2D Metroid games, so somebody else better do it, right? So, obviously, yeah, it's a lot more direct inspiration from one thing, but when you love that thing, sometimes that's all right. One thing we didn't mention is, I don't know if did you play a bit of it, Frank?
Yeah.
Or?
It was okay. I like the weapon stuff. I agree that it's a little too close to Metroid. But it was pretty good. Some might say that if it's really close and you like that thing, it's good. Some might say it's pandering or unoriginal. I mean, it's walking a fine line, because I think there are some original aspects to it too.
Well, I was going to mention the glitching thing, which I haven't
got to that yet.
I've just kind of started to scratch the surface of that stuff, but there's an interesting mechanic in the game where there's visual glitches that look like, old Nintendo games that would actually have graphical glitches, but there's a whole mechanic built around that with like hidden blocks and stuff. So
I like it
cool.
though. I would like to revisit it.
And I'll throw out a little mindfuck of the month.
Yes.
Oh.
Need it.
Although I've barely played it, it definitely qualifies. Have you guys heard of the Talos principle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you played it?
No, not yet.
So I think it is actually coming to PS4 in the near future. So I kind of am a little bit conflicted as to whether or not to keep playing it on Steam, but it was on sale, so I grabbed it. And basically, it's kind of like Portal, but just without the portal gun, if that makes any sense. So it's like a first-person puzzle game with a lot of interesting puzzles, but it's got this sort of I don't know, like sort of an ancient mythology, like all these different ancient cultures and religious symbols and all this stuff kind of tied together. And I mean, I haven't seen enough of the story to really know where it goes, but it's gotten some pretty good reviews. Yeah. And I'll definitely be playing it one way or another in the near future. So
Cool. Yeah, I've been looking forward to checking that out too.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Cool. And I kind of missed, like, the most important thing is 200cc Mario Kart. It's the best. Have you guys played it at all?
Nope.
It's so fast. It's like nearing Lost Orbit speeds. No, no, it's really cool. It's a nice, fresh upgrade for Mario Kart, I think. I'm surprised they haven't done it sooner. But it's cool. Like, you can't make the turns that you could before or go in the full speed. So you kind of have to relearn all the tracks if you want to get awesome at them, which is nice. Even playing like a simple one like Moo Moo Farms, you can't just kind of like graze around the cows. You gotta really plan ahead. It's awesome.
So is that a paid DLC or is that?
It was part of the paid DLC. So you get 8 tracks, a couple characters, and the 200cc.
Cool. I have to look into that.
It's pretty sweet. Unless you bought the double DLC pack from before, you just get it. That's part of it. So
one other thing I wanted to mention quick before we wrap up, which we didn't talk about. I know we both looked at it at work, was Little Devil Inside.
Oh, yeah.
The game that got announced. Did you guys look at this game at all?
How could we
Was
not?
that the
You were
Zelda
just
one?
buzzing over this thing.
Sending us every 2 seconds?
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not getting a lot of traction out there.
It will. It's probably
You think?
super early in
Like
development.
there's a Kickstarter and
Yeah.
it's like
Kickstarter's
not
dead,
doing well
man.
at all,
It's dead.
so-
Oh, actually, if we're talking about Kickstarter, did you guys see Ukulele?
no.
No.
You guys haven't heard of that? It's this
Dead.
indie
Kickstarter's
team making basically Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh, I've seen that. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, it's like a chameleon and a bat. And they put up their Kickstarter and got kickstarted within like 4 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It was instant.
How much were they asking for, though?
They were asking for like 300,000 or something like that. I think they got 500,000 within like half an hour. Probably wasn't that fast, but it was within the first day or two. Looks really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think it's the same thing with Axiom Verge. Is just like, Rare's Microsoft's not letting Rare do what they do
Ukulele
best.
and harmonica?
So somebody
no,
else has to
Yuka
do it.
and Lele.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah,
Even better.
yeah.
But I would say if you haven't checked out Little Devil Inside,
Yeah, you should check
take a
that out.
peek. It is absolutely
It's pretty
gorgeous
sexy.
and stunning.
Did you kickstart it yet?
No.
Hell no.
I like kickstarting towards the end.
Oh, so does everyone.
Do you know why though?
Because then you know it's a sure thing and it's going to happen.
Well, just like the Ouya, they added that my limited edition brushed brown metallic Ouya right at the end of the Kickstarter. And they always add cool stuff later.
Can't you upgrade your bid? I'm sure you can give them more money. I'm sure they wouldn't stop you from giving them more money or changing your
I don't
tier.
know,
You just want to wait. See, I did the opposite. My buddy had a Kickstarter, so I gave him like $100 just because I didn't think he'd make it. But then he did, so now I owe him 100.
Which is in the latest episode of Silicon Valley.
That's right.
Oh, is it really? Oh,
It's really good.
damn! I got to get on that.
It's for indie developers too. That's probably the best show on TV you can watch right now.
Just having watched Sloan and Frank had told me a lot about this show and how much they enjoyed it, and just having watched it the last week, I'd be watching it with my wife and like cracking up, and she's just like not laughing. She's like, "Why is that funny?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's trying to pitch for capital or like this or that, or they can't agree on what the T-shirt should look like." Like, it's hilarious. Yeah, definitely a lot of startup culture, but
It's
yeah,
an amazing show.
it's really good.
It's good stuff. All right,
This
well,
isn't TV junk. Jeez.
ouch. All right, well, what's the time sitting at with this one, Frank?
Oh, it is 3 hours and 7 minutes. So
Right on schedule.
just about the usual.
Yep. All right, well, let's wrap it up then. I guess normally I would run down upcoming releases, but I don't know if I have a...
Just one, May 12th, Lost Orbit, Steam PS4.
Yeah,
That's it.
well, I'll throw in a little Batman Arkham Knight.
What
which I
about The
believe
Witcher
is
3
June
then, if you're
2nd.
going to...
Yeah, we can do
May
that
19th.
too. Witcher 3, May 19th, is that correct?
Yeah.
And those are actually the only two games I have on here that haven't come out yet. So clearly I need to update my list. But is there a lot of stuff coming out this summer or not really?
No.
I'm getting the feeling there's not much. So
And when you were talking earlier about next-gen consoles, Soul sales trending down, it's just there's no games.
well, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Oh, but that's Wii U, though. That
Yeah,
doesn't count.
Splatoon's coming out soon. Yeah,
That's true, too.
What's the date on that? Do
I
you
have
know?
no idea. Probably 2016.
I think it's May. If I'm
It is. I
not
think
Yeah, I
it's
think
May
it's
or it's soon.
Better not be the 12th.
No, it's not. I checked. It's Wii U.
Good time to launch indie games right now.
Yeah, it is actually worked out.
May 29th.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
So give us one more quick rundown when the game comes out
Cool, so
and where you can find more
Lost
info.
Orbit will be out May 12th on PS4 and Steam. It'll be $11.99 with a 10% discount. So pick it up and follow us on Twitter at Pixelot Games or at PixelotchChris. And on Facebook and those other ones too.
Well, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's always fun.
It's a blast. And you can follow us on Twitter at Dirty Frank with 3 Hours and Dirty, at Still My Angry Commute, even though you haven't been commuting. And
Have you checked to see if Huck City's available again? I think we had this conversation.
I have not checked.
what's up with this guy?
Check
I
right
don't
now.
understand.
I'll steal it.
I'm at Film Junk, and you can follow at Game Junk Podcast.
Frank's
So
busy trying to steal my
maybe
turtle
next
hand.
episode, Batman Arkham Knight, maybe. And live stream coming up now, even though you can't hear it. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.
Bye.